In an age of peace, the old tales of heroes clashing with demon kings were just that, tales. Dungeon raiding had become a form of entertainment, a spectacle broadcast for all to see. For Rem, one day changed everything. He was once part of the heroes' party, a celebrated group of adventurers, but on that fateful day he lost his job. In this new era, adventurers and monsters were created from mana, allowing dungeon raids to become a popular spectacle without the true risk of death. Footage of these dungeon raids was broadcast across the land. The roles of adventurer, monster, hero, and even demon king were now nothing more than jobs. On the fourth floor of the demon king's castle, a swirling vortex of energy signals the start of a battle. A monster roars a challenge, telling the intruders to know their place. The warrior, Alva, leaps into action, unleashing a flurry of attacks with his magic sword against a pack of werewolves. Commentators marvel at Alva's tremendous power as he quickly defeats over 10 werewolves. However, his aggressive style is a risky move that leaves him wide open. That's where the paladin Lark provides meticulous cover, showcasing their teamwork. Party coordination is what makes or breaks a raid. It is Lark's composed judgment and ability to cover his comrades that is truly something to behold. Rem, unable to hear from inside the dungeon, can only guess at the commentary. He's certain they are praising his teammates' skills. Lark's ability to focus solely on defense is thanks to the rest of the party. The hero Phoenix announces that he will be the one to strike the final blow. He asks Lark to handle the front line. Alva eagerly agrees to the plan. Lark gives a confident nod. Their hunter Lily gives Phoenix his only instruction. Lily tells Phoenix to simply walk straight ahead. She unleashes a burst of power, clearing a path through the enemies. The commentators recognize her technique as Godspeed, a rare ability that only 3 people in the world are confirmed to be able to use. Lily demonstrates her supersonic archery. Her arrows move at a speed undetectable to the naked eye. With 8 enemies taken down at once, her incredible skill is undeniable. While the battle rages, Phoenix advances peacefully toward the door to the floor's boss. Thanks to his comrades' fierce attacks, the remaining werewolves cannot even approach Phoenix. Rem thinks that with their numbers cut down, Phoenix will head straight for the boss. All that's left is the final confrontation. Suddenly, Rem is shoved aside. Alva tells him not to just stand there in the way. Alva smirks, mockingly asking if this is more of Rem's special black magic. An arrow zips past Alva's face, a warning shot. Lily appears, reminding him that there are still enemies about. She tells him to concentrate. Alva begrudgingly complies. The commentators cry out in excitement. As Phoenix takes a step forward, they know the final battle is about to begin. Phoenix has arrived before the floor boss. The creature is a massive werewolf, 3 times the height of an average one, and it gives off an immense, intimidating pressure. Yet Phoenix remains completely unperturbed. He apologizes to the werewolf chief. He declares that his party will be passing through. The boss roars in fury. Phoenix raises his sword, preparing to meet the monster's charge head-on. With a deafening clash of steel against claw, Phoenix stops the floor boss's attack with his sword. Suddenly, a crack appears on the boss's claw, followed by an explosion of flames that engulfs its arm, much to its surprise. The floor boss's body is covered in flames. It howls in pain, struggling desperately to escape but finding it can't. Seizing the opportunity, Phoenix leaps into the air and delivers a powerful fiery slash. The boss howls, engulfed in flames. Rem watches his comrades with a somber expression. Phoenix declares that their party does not lose. Phoenix stands victorious as the beast disintegrates behind him, stating they do not lose their battles. The crowd watching the broadcast erupts in cheers as the commentators announce the winner, the flame hero Phoenix, who defeated the boss in a single attack. Phoenix's party has splendidly conquered the 4th floor. His power comes from the fire spirit residing in his holy sword, a high-ranking spirit said to be the source of all heat in the world. The selection criteria for this spirit is terribly strict, making Phoenix its first contractor in 130 years. As the party enters the safe room, the commentators note that this is the end of the raid for now. They eagerly await the next raid on the 5th floor. The commentators turn their discussion to Rem, the Black Mage. They wonder about his role, noting that his job class is intended for support, but they suspect he's only in the party due to preferential treatment. They believe removing him wouldn't have much of an impact, and that even a white mage could provide better offensive support. Onlookers agree, pointing out that Rem didn't seem to move a single step during the entire fight. Rem overhears their criticisms, thinking they're still saying the same things about him. White magic is positive magic that heals, buffs, and purifies its target. In contrast, black magic refers to negative magic. Black magic generally applies debuffs, lowering an enemy's attack, defense, and speed. It can also apply darkness to limit sight, poison for continuous damage, and confusion to disrupt thinking and judgment. Unlike flashy offensive and defensive magic, the effects of white and black magic aren't always visible. This is why many have a cold reception to black magic in particular, because it's boring. Party members can feel the effects of white magic. However, since black magic targets enemies, it's not clear to allies how it's benefiting them. This is especially true now that dungeon raids are entertainment. There's nothing flashy to show. Throughout the fight, Rem had been hard at work. He lowered all the enemy's magic and physical offensive and defensive power, as well as their speed. He even limited their sight and ability to think. But none of it was conveyed through the screen. Compared to his comrades' flashy moves, he just looked like he was standing there being lazy. He imagines people calling him creepy for mumbling curses, feeling utterly depressed. Rem accepts that they will be heading to the 5th floor next time. They are challenging the legendary Demon King's castle, a dungeon that holds the record for having 0 parties ever infiltrate its deepest floor. Using dungeon record stones allows parties to continue from the last place they reached. Yet in spite of this, not a single party has ever confronted the Demon King at the castle's deepest level. Rem introduces his party: Paladin Lark, Warrior Alva, Hunter Lily, and himself, the Black Mage Rem. Among tens of thousands of official parties, they rank 4th. Ranks are determined once a year by the Adventurers Guild, based on popularity and achievements. As Alva suggests they go get drinks, Rem is sure that everyone thinks it's a mystery why he's even in the party. Official parties have a maximum of 5 people, including the hero, and Phoenix simply tells him to come on. Phoenix is the flame hero. He is the first contractor of the fire spirit in 130 years. Many people expect him to be the one to finally put an end to the legend of the impregnable Demon King's castle. For Rem, Phoenix is also something more. Rem recalls their past together. Phoenix is his childhood friend. After the raid, he smiles and suggests they go home. Looking at his friend, Rem feels a growing sense of inadequacy. He feels that as the boring, unpopular black mage, he seems undeserving of being with someone as great as Phoenix. And so he remembers that day. The day he lost his job. In a bustling tavern, Rem recalls the stinging words that led to him being removed from his party. The accusation that he was the one holding them back echoes in his mind, marking the beginning of the end of his time with the hero's party. The Paladin Lark sat calmly at the table. The Hunter Lily was also present, sipping her drink. The tense silence was shattered by a loud slam on the table, startling Rem. The one who slammed the table was the warrior Alva. He glares across the table at Rem, asking the others if they agree with his sentiment. Phoenix, the hero, tries to intervene, calling Alva's name. Alva angrily cuts him off, telling him not to defend Rem. He argues that unlike Rem, he, Lark, and Lily were all admitted to the party because of their skills. Alva continues his verbal assault, questioning if Rem thinks he deserves a spot just because he has known Phoenix for a long time. He scoffs that without Phoenix, no one would ever let a boring black mage join. He slams his mug on the table, and declaring it is not a laughing matter. Lark coldly tells Rem to stop leeching off Phoenix. Phoenix insists Rem isn't incompetent and demands Alva apologize. Alva bluntly retorts that he believes Rem is incompetent. Seeking validation, Alva turns to Lark and Lily, asking if they have any reason to back Rem up. Lark looks at Lily with a smug expression, confident in their answer. As Rem looks on in silence, his comrades discuss his fate. Lily states that she doesn't care. Lark adds that it makes no difference whether Rem is there or not. Alva suggests they kick Rem out and find a better replacement. Lily agrees it would make things easier for them. She then criticizes Alva's vulgar tongue. He retorts, asking for her opinion on Rem instead. After Alva's sarcastic address, Lily gives her cold assessment. She concedes that while Phoenix wouldn't keep someone inept for personal reasons, she has her doubts. She adds that their party's style relies on swift, superior offense, and it's a fact that the effects of black magic are imperceptible. Phoenix, looking troubled, finally admits that he would prefer someone who can directly add to their offense, rather than just provide support. Alva smirks, seeing his victory. He declares to the table, "There you have it." Alva puts an arm around Rem, feigning reassurance. He suggests a way for Rem to prove himself. He challenges Rem to try casting his magic on him. With a malicious grin, Alva goads Rem, saying he'd understand black magic if it was cast on him. He promises to apologize if Rem can prove its usefulness. Rem is frozen by the challenge, a memory from his childhood surfacing. Rem remembers his mysterious master, who agreed to teach him on the condition he never complain. He recalls promising a young phoenix to keep his master a secret. It was a vow that binds him even now. The master's question echoes in his mind, "Don't you desire power?" The memory of his master's voice calling his name snaps him back to the present. Phoenix slams his fist on the table, demanding Alva stop. Before Phoenix can finish, Rem interrupts him. With his back to his teammates, Rem quietly announces, "I'll quit." Phoenix is stunned, calling out Rem's name in disbelief. Alva grins, satisfied with the outcome. He praises it as a great choice. Alva taunts Phoenix, calling Rem a coward. Phoenix can only watch dismayed, as Alva mocks their supposed fourth-in-the-world rank. Alva then loudly announces to the whole tavern that Rem is quitting, and they're looking for a replacement, turning his departure into a public spectacle. Rem reflects that this wasn't the first time Alva had goaded him. It was all because he is a black mage. He understands that in the current era, public opinion and being appealing to an audience are just as important as actual strength. If a player isn't flashy, the viewers will call for their removal. Fellow adventurers will look down on them. And eventually, even their own comrades will shun them. He recalls the dream he shared with Phoenix long ago. As children, they would watch the broadcasts with wide-eyed wonder. They were full of admiration for the heroes on screen. Their childhood dreams were a world away from the humiliation he was now enduring. Rem stands and turns to leave. Phoenix desperately calls out to him. As Phoenix begs him to wait, Rem resolves that if nothing else can be changed, he must be the one to change. Rem calmly tells Phoenix that it's fine, silencing his friend's protests. He has made his decision. Turning to face Phoenix, Rem makes a bold declaration he will overtake him. He clarifies that he will do it with a different party. The statement hangs in the air, a challenge to his former leader and friend. As Rem walks away, Alva shouts that no party will ever take him. Rem pauses and tells Phoenix that they are still friends, but from now on they are rivals. Having left the tavern, Rem finds a quiet place to reflect. He slumps against a wall in a dark alley, feeling that despite enduring the same treatment for so long, he has finally reached his breaking point. He knows he could have stayed if he had revealed his true power. But doing so would expose his master, breaking a promise he holds dear. He also couldn't bear to see Phoenix's reputation suffer for defending him, as Phoenix had kept his promise to him since they were young. Rem acknowledges the flaw in his defiant declaration: only heroes can create parties. As a black mage who has left the party of an important figure like Phoenix, he wonders who would ever take him now. His thoughts are cut short by a sudden shout nearby. An angry customer yells at a little girl to leave him alone before storming off. Rem watches as a man, likely the shopkeeper, apologizes for the girl's behavior. He realizes the person being yelled at is just a child. He notes that she's a demi-human as well. The shopkeeper tries to console the crying girl, telling her she'll do better tomorrow. Deciding to intervene, Rem approaches the stall. With a gentle smile, Rem asks if the shop is still open, explaining he's hungry. The surprised shopkeeper and the tearful little girl welcome him. He then kneels down to the girl's level and asks for her recommendation. The girl hesitates before pointing to a particular apple. Rem agrees to take it, and the shopkeeper thanks him. The girl timidly explains that while the apple isn't very pretty, it should be delicious because of its lovely color. She sadly tells him that she felt bad because no one would buy it, even though she worked hard and knew it was delicious. As she trails off, worried he won't want it either. Rem takes a large, crunchy bite. Rem smiles, telling the surprised girl that the apple is good, just as she said. The girl asks if he's serious, and he confirms it. He praises her as an amazing shop assistant for seeing beyond appearances to the quality inside. He then asks if he can come back to shop again, because he wants to see what else she recommends. Overcome with emotion, the girl's eyes well up with tears as she quietly agrees. Her quiet agreement turns into a joyful exclamation. The shopkeeper beams, happy that she's found a customer. Rem thanks them both and apologizes for the late intrusion as he prepares to leave. As Rem turns to leave, the girl hides shyly behind the shopkeeper. He bids her farewell. As he walks away, she calls out to him. She urgently calls out to him one more time. Gathering all her courage, the little girl shouts out her name, Cashew. Rem smiles and introduces himself in return. She shyly thanks him for everything. With a bright, happy smile, Cashew declares that she will eagerly await his next visit. She promises she will always wait for him, leaving Rem momentarily stunned. As he walks away, Rem reflects that he never thought someone would ever need him. Alva's cruel words that a black mage is not needed by anyone echo in his mind. But now, inspired by Cashew's earnest efforts, he feels a renewed determination to give it his all. He pauses, contemplating his future. The words of his master resurface, reminding him that the path ahead will be an arduous struggle. His master had warned him that his worth will only be acknowledged if he reaches the very top. Rem thinks about Cashew, someone who needs him. Gazing at the starry night sky, he finds a new sense of hope. He believes that somewhere out there is a place for him. Meanwhile, a dark, foreboding castle stands under the full moon. In a grand room within, a mysterious woman with horns sits on her bed. She is silently observing something on a glowing tablet. The tablet displays an image of Rem. The woman identifies him as a black mage. She speaks his name with interest, Rem. Weeks have passed, and Rem's search for a new party has been a demoralizing failure. One group bluntly tells him they're not interested in a black mage. Another party is specifically looking for a warrior, while one member cruelly guesses that Rem must have been fired. Even a seemingly hopeful encounter ends in disappointment once they learn his job class. The repeated rejections leave him utterly defeated and depressed. He remembers his bold declaration to Phoenix, but now, faced with the harsh reality that he can't even find a party, his confidence shatters. Having rejected the job his parents found for him, Rem feels he can't go back home now. With few options left, he heads to the Adventurers Guild. He decides to use their automated matching service, hoping for a different outcome. Though pained by the service fee, Rem inputs his information, human black mage. His heart pounds with nervous anticipation as the system searches for a party. The result is a flashing 0, not a single match. Stunned by the result, Rem feels completely defeated. With no other leads, he decides to get something to eat. Wandering through the market, Rem reflects on how hard it is for black mages. The shopkeeper explains that no one posts recruitment notices for black mages and questions if Rem can use any other type of magic. Rem admits that while he can, using something outside his expertise feels wrong. The shopkeeper adds that, as a rule, adventurers must register with their suited job class. Cashew enthusiastically declares that she thinks black mages are cool, and her simple encouragement touches Rem. The shopkeeper is glad to hear her say that. He jokes that they need a cute girl to lure in customers, but Cashew insists that's not true. Rem smiles, realizing he's become a regular at their stall. Rem learns that Cashew, only 8 years old, is diligently working to support her family. He was her very first customer, and her encouragement is why he keeps coming back. The shopkeeper says he understands Rem's situation. He reveals that he too wanted to be something else, a tailor. The shopkeeper explains that no matter how much he practiced, he couldn't compete with those who had the tailor job class. He recounts that in their country, an oracle reveals one's job class at the temple upon turning 10. These job classes range from adventuring roles to everyday professions like chef, merchant, or blacksmith. It is something you cannot choose for yourself, no matter how hard you work or beg. It is considered a gift from the gods. Rem reflects that receiving the job class you wanted was seen as a blessing from them. For those who didn't receive such a blessing, it was a trial. For Rem, who dreamed of being a hero, it was closer to despair. He feels that if hard work was rewarded, he would have already gotten the job he desired. His somber thoughts are interrupted by the cheerful welcome of his new friends. Seeing Cashew's bright, expectant smile, Rem finds his resolve. He declares that he will do all he can within his capabilities, and the shopkeeper agrees. The shopkeeper kindly offers him a job at the stall if things don't pan out. As Rem starts to thank him, he firmly interrupts with a loud no. Suddenly, a commotion erupts nearby as a man runs through the alley. They realize it's a thief who has just knocked a woman to the ground. The thief brandishes a knife, ready to attack. He slashes wildly, causing onlookers to scream in fear. Cashew cries out in alarm as she sees the thief heading straight for them. Rem quickly asks the shopkeeper to stand in the thief's path, explaining he has a plan and can offer support. Rem reassures the worried shopkeeper, promising he won't let him get hurt. Trusting him, the shopkeeper steels himself and moves to intercept the approaching thief. He yells for Rem to take care of Cashew, and Rem quickly pulls the frightened girl to safety. Rem tells a frightened Cashew to hide. He knows that while using magic for everyday tasks is allowed, going too far will attract surveillance. But as the thief charges toward the shopkeeper, Rem knows he has no choice but to use his power. The thief yells at the shopkeeper to get out of his way, threatening to kill him. Unseen by anyone, Rem focuses his magic and silently locks onto the running thief. The shopkeeper stands his ground, tense but ready. Cashew hides behind a fruit crate, covering her head in fear. With his target locked, Rem focuses his gaze. He gives the signal, yelling "now" as the thief leaps to attack. Just as the thief lunges, he suddenly stumbles midair. Confused and disoriented, he wonders what just happened. The thief's body suddenly feels immensely heavy. He finds he can't see anything, his vision completely gone. He struggles to breathe, pain racking his body. Seizing the opportunity, the shopkeeper lunges forward. He lands a solid punch to the thief's gut. At the same time, he grabs the thief's wrist, securing the hand holding the knife. The thief's grip loosens, and the knife clatters to the ground. The shopkeeper follows up with a powerful uppercut. The thief is knocked out cold, collapsing to the ground. With the thief defeated, the shopkeeper roars in triumph, declaring that justice has been served. The onlookers are amazed, and Rem cheers, praising the shopkeeper for his amazing feat. Cashew peeks out from her hiding spot. Rem calls her name, startling her, and he quickly apologizes. He quietly reassures her that everything is okay. The woman who was knocked down tries to thank the shopkeeper, but he humbly deflects the praise. Another woman fawns over the shopkeeper, calling him cool. The rescued woman asks if he's the manager. As a token of her gratitude, she offers to buy some of his produce, and he thanks her profusely. Soon, a crowd gathers, all eager to buy from the hero of the day. Rem watches, glad to see the positive outcome. He muses that people want to repay good deeds, especially when done by a do-gooder who stopped a criminal. The shopkeeper gives Rem a satisfied thumbs up. Rem returns a quiet smile, acknowledging their shared victory. As the dazed thief is dragged away, he complains that he can't move. The citizens helping him away curse under their breath, calling him a pain. The shopkeeper knows Rem used black magic and acknowledges the bravery it took to stand before a knife-wielding man. Rem feels that as an apology for leaving the shopkeeper to take down the criminal. This sudden boost in business should be enough to contribute to the shop. Rem flexes his hand, satisfied that his skills haven't deteriorated. He remembers that he made sure to continue training even after he left the party. After all, that was a promise he had made to his master. He recalls his past, how he never gave up on his dream of being a hero and desperately strove to do his best under his master. Looking back, he realizes that special training was hellish, being thrown off cliffs, abandoned with wild beasts, and beaten to pulp by his master. By casting black magic on himself and continuing his training, he learned how abilities are lowered and sight is limited, making his body understand how to fine-tune the magic. This ensures that as long as his magic isn't blocked, he always gets his desired results. He took precautions so the onlookers wouldn't notice his use of black magic, not that they would know he was a former member of the world's fourth-ranked party. He doubts anyone would have noticed even if he hadn't taken precautions. But he's unaware that someone with very keen eyes was watching his every move. A voice cuts through his thoughts, stating, "I was watching you." Rem's eyes widen in shock. He turns in surprise to see a mysterious woman in a wide-brimmed hat standing behind him. With a knowing smile, the woman addresses him directly, "Mr. Rem, the Black Mage." Rem is stunned, wondering how she could have noticed what he was doing. The woman praises him, noting his complete control over his mana and his ability to optimize several spells in seconds. She says she watched on in fascination, and Rem realizes he's been completely found out. He wonders who this mysterious person could possibly be. He gulps nervously as she begins to speak. With a bashful smile, she declares, "I am your fan." Rem is utterly bewildered, wondering if she's joking, a fan of him, not Phoenix. She explains that she was so starstruck at witnessing his magic that she couldn't approach him right away. She admits that in her excitement, she almost lost sight of him. Noticing her fangs and bat-like pendant, Rem realizes she's a vampire. She asks if he finds demi-humans unpleasant. Flustered, Rem quickly insists he was just surprised. She passionately grabs his hands. She tells him his black magic is truly breathtaking. She admits it might be creepy, but reveals she has been searching for him ever since he left his party, leaving Rem stunned. She leans in, calling Phoenix's party foolish for expelling him. Rem's thoughts race as he notes how close she is. Flustered, he can only manage to point out that she is too close. She quickly pulls back, apologizing profusely for her forwardness. She says someone as lowly as her shouldn't have touched someone as wonderful as him, feeling she got carried away. She becomes depressed, begging him not to scorn her shameful soul. Rem is touched. He's heard countless insults, but now this beautiful person who smells nice has suddenly announced she's his fan. He quickly calls out to her, saying he doesn't hate her at all. He explains that it's just all so sudden. She looks up, realizing he hasn't even asked for her name yet. She smiles, calling him kind-hearted. She remarks that he hasn't changed since that day. This confuses Rem, who asks if they've met before. Rem reasons she's likely not an adventurer, as demi-humans, especially vampires, rarely become one. But he can't shake the feeling that he's seen her somewhere before. The woman quickly dismisses her comment, telling him to forget what she said. She then formally introduces herself as Miller. Rem suggests they go for tea, and Miller shyly asks if he wouldn't mind. Miller, flustered at the thought of having tea with the fourth-ranked adventurer, accepts, doubting she'd get a second chance. Miller offers to prepare a space for them if he's fine with it. Rem is taken aback, unsure how to respond to the sudden invitation. Sensing his hesitation, Miller worriedly asks if the idea sounds unpleasant. Her question makes Rem blush in response. Flustered, Rem begins to stammer. He manages to say that it doesn't sound unpleasant at all. He thinks to himself that no one would turn down such a request. He notes that Miller is a beauty who really stands out. He thinks she's a huge contrast to his boring self and realizes their conversation has strayed from the topic he wanted to discuss. Before he can speak, Miller tells him he is the finest black mage. Rem tries to be modest, but Miller insists he need not be. She explains that among the world's top 100 parties, there are only 3 black mages, and he is the only one within the top 10. Miller continues, stating that while black mages lack the finesse of other job classes, Phoenix's party made it as far as they did all thanks to him. She asserts that such a feat is impossible with only mid-grade black magic. She adds that his precise mana control means he has a complete understanding of the effects of his own black magic. She is absolutely sure of it. Miller tells him he must have put in more effort than any normal person could ever imagine. Rem flashes back to his old party members dismissing him and saying he was holding them back. He realizes this is the first time anyone has ever said something so validating to him since he became an adventurer. He knows she said she was a fan, but wonders how she could know so much about him. Miller mutters to herself about how foolish humans are for getting rid of a high-level black mage whose power was the key to their success. Rem calls her name, snapping her out of her thoughts. She flinches and quickly apologizes, claiming it was something a friend mentioned. Rem accepts her explanation. She asks him to pass on her appreciation to this friend, adding that hearing such a view of him is encouraging. Miller assures him that his feelings have already been conveyed. She turns with a click of her heel, confusing Rem. Facing a grand, shimmering archway, she announces her apology for the wait. Miller declares that they have arrived. Rem looks up in astonishment at a massive, ornate castle, realizing it's the rumored Demon King's castle. His mind reels at the sight of the Demon King's castle. Miller apologizes if she has surprised him. Stunned, Rem asks her who she really is. Miller states that she has been aware of his true power for a long time, and witnessing it today has only convinced her further. She removes her glasses as she addresses him. She tells him that he deserves a more appropriate position and the respect of those around him. With a serious expression, she looks at Rem and makes her request. Standing before the imposing Demon King's castle, she asks him to lend them his strength. The figure on the throne is the ruler of the demons. Carmilla formally announces that she has brought the black mage, Reme, as requested. The shadowed figure on the throne acknowledges Carmilla's return, startling Reme. Reme's mind races as he finally remembers where he's seen her before. He identifies her as Carmilla, the formidable floor boss from the 3rd floor of the castle. He remembers that her attacks are not what they seem. She uses magic, not just her subordinate bats. He recalls her reputation as a cruel character who enjoys tormenting people for fun. He muses that this persona bears no resemblance to the miller he had just met. The figure on the throne addresses him, asking if he is indeed Reme. Reme nervously confirms his identity. He recalls that the ruler of the demons is supposed to be at the deepest point of the 10-floor castle. He had hoped to be the first adventurer to ever lay eyes on the castle's leader. He steels himself, ready to face the ruler of the demons. The figure introduces themselves as the leader, but Reme is caught off guard by their surprisingly childish voice. The shadow recedes, revealing a young girl who proudly introduces herself as Lucy, the ruler of the demons. Seeing Reme's shocked expression, she asks what is wrong. He stammers that it's nothing, just that she looks much younger than he expected. Lucy gets in his face, pressing him on whether he thinks she doesn't look like the ruler of the demons. Reme nervously deflects, saying he dares not comment on someone he doesn't know. Lucy considers his words for a moment. She remarks that if he were typically rude, she'd kick him out, but since he seems different, she'll proceed. She dismisses the introductions and decides to get to the main issue. Lucy addresses Reme by name. She formally announces his appointment as staff officer. She extends her hand, finalizing the appointment to her Demon King castle. Reme is stunned, thinking that the role of staff officer would make him the number 2 in the Demon King's army. Lucy notices Reme's bewildered face, asking why he looks like it's the first time he's hearing of this. She turns to Carmilla for an explanation, who apologizes, saying she thought bringing him directly would be faster. Lucy reacts with disbelief. She glares at Reme, calling him a bastard for coming along without knowing anything. Lucy loudly accuses Reme of following Carmilla with lewd intentions. Reme is utterly flabbergasted by the accusation. He frantically denies having any such thoughts, while Lucy points accusingly from her throne. Lucy slams her fist down, angrily demanding to know if he's even a healthy young man if he doesn't want to. She begins shouting about the quality of Carmilla's breasts. Carmilla sternly interrupts her, simply saying, "Ruler of the demons." Carmilla watches with a satisfied smile. Lucy flinches, sweating nervously. She coughs, trying to regain her composure. She acknowledges they've gotten off topic, while Reme silently blames her for it. Lucy explains that making him the staff officer was Carmilla's wish. Reme is surprised, still thinking of her as Milasan. Lucy admits that even she wouldn't have noticed his power without careful observation. Lucy leans forward and asks him directly which ruler of the demons was his trainer. Reme is stunned into silence, the word master echoing in his mind. She insists there's no way he could have reached his current level alone, comparing his power to that of a mage with 100 years of training. She acknowledges that while he hides it well, his abilities are clearly beyond human. She looks at him intently and demands that he answer her question. Reme stands silently, unable to answer. Lucy understands his silence, concluding that he cannot speak about it. She tells him it's fine, accepting his unspoken refusal. She changes the subject, explaining that black magic originated from older, more potent black arts. She recounts how a past ruler of the demons plunged mankind into terror with these arts, making them a subject of extreme caution. She deduces that revealing his master would be problematic and praises him for being a thoughtful and admirable pupil. Reme apologizes, and Lucy reassures him that it is fine. She then asks a very specific question, wondering if this master shared her hair and eye color. She continues, asking if they also had horns like hers. Seeing his continued silence, she concludes that he can't answer this question either. She then pivots, stating that she has taken over as the current ruler of the demons. She asks him what he thinks of a grandfather who would leave his granddaughter to take over his duties so he could retire. The word grandfather hits Reme with the force of a revelation, and he realizes who she must be. Reme understands now, Lucy is the granddaughter of his master. She in turn grumbles about her grandfather abandoning his duties. She finds it deplorable, yet lucky, to find a relative like Reme in this place. Reme thinks about the fact that a human was educated by the former Demon King. Lucy tells Carmilla that her eyes were not wrong about Reme, and Carmilla admits his greatness exceeded her expectations. Reme quietly wonders if educated is just another word for the brutal training his master put him through. Lucy decides a test is no longer necessary and formally asks Reme to serve as her staff officer. He interrupts, asking her to wait. He reflects on his journey, shocked to find himself, a former adventurer, being asked to join the very side he used to fight. Carmilla calls his name, sensing his hesitation. Carmilla gently tells him not to force himself but expresses her own desire to work with him. She asks if she can add a word. She asks him why he chose the thorny path of an adventurer, knowing he was a black mage. He admits that he yearned to become a hero. He apologizes, but Lucy dismisses it, while Carmilla notes it's a common childhood dream. Carmilla follows up, asking him why. Remay quietly considers her question. His inner thoughts provide a simple answer, because it seemed cool. Carmilla probes further, asking if he wanted to look heroic defeating monsters on a screen. Remay clenches his fist, admitting he wanted to fight enemies himself. He remembers his childhood dreams of showing off flashy sword skills. He also dreamed of wielding powerful magic like fire or ice. She asks if he sought honor and admiration. He remembers his dream of fighting intense battles and being praised for his efforts. It was a dream of leading a fulfilling and exciting life. He confesses that it was his childhood dream. An idealized future. A future that only benefited him and was filled with good things. Carmilla turns the question back on him, asking for his definition of a hero. She explains that her respect for him goes beyond his power as the ultimate black mage. She respects him because he helps others without seeking reward and is kind enough to let them take the praise. She states that someone who chooses righteousness over honor is a true hero. Remay agrees internally, realizing that a job title doesn't define a person's worth. She asks if he still desires to be a hero, and if that can only be achieved as an adventurer. Remay considers the simple definitions: adventurers raid dungeons and monsters fight back. He knows that adventurers are primarily human, while monsters were originally a role for demihumans. He reflects that he never once considered becoming a monster, only a hero. He asks himself if anything would truly change if he became a monster. Carmilla explains that monsters must constantly hide their true forms. She continues that there would be no honors for Remay, and he would be far from the hero of his dreams. She notes that he clearly has no intention of revealing his full power. However, she points out that as a monster masking his form, he could manifest his powers to his heart's content. She assures him that in the Demon King's castle, his true strength would be welcomed, not feared. Remay wonders aloud if a black mage like him could really become a monster in the Demon King's army. Carmilla explains that while the effects of black magic are lost on spectators, every monster he has ever faced knows the truth of his power. They understand that his very existence leads to their defeat. They recognize the might of his magic, and they feel the threat he poses as an enemy. She tells him that as an ally, he would be an incredibly powerful and promising asset. She explains that just as people are energized by an adventurer's efforts, demihumans need a symbol for the monsters as well. She confesses that she didn't aspire to be a monster just to be hunted as prey. By defeating heroes in the Demon King's castle, they could become a ray of hope for other demihumans. They could become an existence capable of standing against adventurers. He sees that her desire is just like his own yearning to become a hero. He adds a comment, asserting that monsters and adventurers are equal beings. He explains that a dungeon raid requires both, and powerful monsters are what make the spectacle fascinating. Lucy affirms that she has never considered them prey. Carmilla agrees with a soft yes. She tells Remay that his genuine kindness and power are precisely why she felt compelled to reach out to him. She makes a gentle play. With sincere hope in her eyes, Carmilla asks if he will become their hero. His resolve firm, Remay accepts. Lucy notes with satisfaction that they have come to an agreement. She formally welcomes the black mage Remay in her name as Lucy, the ruler of the demons. She officially appoints him as staff officer of the Demon King Castle. Remay notes that on that day, he found new employment after being kicked out of his hero party. His new workplace is the Demon King's Castle, and his new position is staff officer. His job, however, remains that of a black mage. He now has a new goal. He will become the hero who leads the monsters. He accepts that this new path may lead him to confront his former friends. He recalls his former leader, Phoenix, asking if they should go. And in his heart, he knew he had no hesitation about his new path. Remay turns, startled by a sudden presence he hadn't noticed before. He sees several figures have appeared behind him, flanking the throne. Remay wonders what is happening. From her throne, Lucy snaps her fingers, admitting she forgot to say something. Lucy formally introduces the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King Castle. One of them is a man with glasses and a single horn, identified as Argaz. The other is a figure clad in intimidating black armor, named Furkaz. Remay realizes with a shock that Myra is also one of the 4 heavenly kings. He wonders when they appeared, as he's certain they weren't there before. Lucy explains that she thought he'd be nervous with too many people around, confirming that one king didn't show up but the rest will be his comrades. She smirks, confident that this is nothing he can't handle, and Remay realizes she must have used advanced black magic to conceal them. The role of ruler of the demons is explained as a job once led by a group of elite demons. These elites are similar to human heroes, recognized for their talent and charisma. Remay sweats, realizing the concealment was a feat of incredibly advanced black magic. Lucy assigns Myra as Remay's assistant, but he protests, confused why a heavenly king would serve him. Lucy displays a hierarchy chart, showing that the staff officer is ranked directly below the ruler and above the 4 heavenly kings. Argaz states that, given the hierarchy, there should be no hesitation. Lucy enthusiastically tells Remay not to worry, certain he'll be a great floor boss. Remay interjects that he's more worried about how the others will react to him. Someone steps up to the table. Argaz faces Remay, apologizing for his late introduction. He introduces himself as Argaz, the demon of time and one of the 4 heavenly kings, congratulating Remay on his new position. Remay and Argaz politely exchange greetings, hoping to get along well. Myra suddenly acts surprised, claiming she hadn't noticed Argaz's presence. He furiously retorts that he didn't use any black magic on her. Remay recalls that Argaz seemed skeptical of his strength. Argaz admits this, stating he hasn't had direct contact with the staff officer's black magic. Remay considers the typical effects of black magic, noting its low success rate and limited duration. Argaz concludes that it's natural to suspect biased reports, adding that truly powerful people can defeat him regardless of any debuffs. However, Argaz acknowledges that reports from others have confirmed the staff officer's strength is far greater than that of a typical black mage. He bluntly tells Myra that she's been infatuated with Remay since he raided the castle. While Myra admits it might be true, Remay seems unsure. Myra calls Argaz creepy for knowing her personal information, but Lucy cheerfully interjects that she shared everything with him. Myra glares at Lucy, who quickly apologizes. Argaz firmly states that the ruler has made her decision, and it's profane for Myra to scowl at her. Remay reflects on the situation, surprised at how courteously he's being treated despite being a human and an expelled black mage who is now their superior. Argaz remarks that while it's a reward for them to be scowled at by the ruler, they must never scowl back at her. Remay finds Argaz's statement very odd. He asks Myra if she also found it strange, but she simply tells Argaz to shut up, calling him a lolican demon and warning him not to cause a scandal by getting arrested. Argaz strikes a pose, acknowledging that he is a childish protector who believes childish lives are the best, but vows never to touch them. He proclaims this as the loyalty of a true protector, unlike lowlifes who lust after angels. Myra retorts, questioning his definition when he enjoys being scowled at. Myra warns Lucy to be wary of Argaz, but he shouts back that he would never make such a criminal demand. Lucy gives him a look of disdain, and Argaz begs her to stop. However, he then collapses in ecstasy, asking her to stare at him harder, prompting Myra to suggest he should be arrested. Myra turns to Remay, reassuring him that not all monsters are perverts, and declaring herself his genuine fan. She then describes her fan activities, which include plastering his photos in her room and demanding more content from editors, which Remay recognizes as pure stalking. Remay is left completely stunned and speechless. Remay tries to get everyone's attention. He smiles and politely asks the ruler for more details about his duties. Argaz and Myra apologize for their behavior, while Lucy laughs, impressed by his composure. Lucy ignores his question and instead bestows a dungeon name upon him, Lemegeton. Remay is visibly confused by the strange name. He repeats it hesitantly, and Lucy confirms it with a yep. Myra explains that it's customary for the ruler to give newcomers dungeon names, and Lucy adds that she's been thinking about it for some time. Lucy excitedly asks if he likes the name, saying it's fitting for a leader of monsters. Remay shortens the name to Geton and thanks her, while Lucy confidently states that everyone will love it. Dungeon raids, now a form of entertainment, have established rules and systems like dungeon names and resurrection cards to prevent real danger. Within this structure, hero parties play the role of light, while monsters are expected to play the role of darkness that is ultimately defeated. To maintain anonymity, Demihumans playing the role of monsters use special outfits and dungeon names. Although people enjoy seeing heroes struggle, it's ultimately human nature to root for the hero's victory in the end. This can cause real-world problems, such as fans of a defeated adventurer attacking an innocent orc. Because of such events, those who play monsters are constantly in danger. An awkward silence falls over the throne room. The armored king, Furkaz, is silent. Myra and Remay exchange hesitant glances. Furkaz stays completely still. Lucy informs them that this child is simply asleep, much to Remay's shock. Remay wonders why Lucy referred to the imposing knight as a child. He reflects that with one king absent and another asleep, the four heavenly kings are not what he expected. Myra checks if Remay has any further questions about the briefing. Remay internally summarizes his new conditions. His dungeon name is Lemegeton, and his avatar must conceal his true identity. Lucy points out that he seems bothered by the name, but Remay quickly agrees to it, knowing he has no real choice. Myra suggests it would be a waste for him to wear a mask, but Remay dismisses the idea, saying his face isn't worth showing. Lucy, flustered, stammers that he's attractive, depending on who you ask. Agar scolds Myra for threatening the ruler, while a defeated Remay asks them to decide on an avatar for him. It is explained that while minor cosmetic changes are allowed for avatars, completely hiding one's true form is illegal. Remay considers this, noting that adding horns wouldn't make someone unrecognizable, and recalls some demi-human adventurers removing their features. He remembers a time when his former teammates, Lily and Alva, argued about whether she should hide her elven ears. Elves have grown popular as adventurers due to their beauty and human-like appearance. Remay recalls Alva's concern that some viewers only wanted to watch humans fight, though he and Fenix sided with Lily. Alva's reasoning was also that black magic's effects aren't obvious, and he preferred more direct firepower for their high-attack style. The memory makes Lily look downcast. Remay falls silent, lost in thought. Myra notices his somber mood and asks what's wrong, but he brushes it off. Remay finally asks about the duties of a staff officer. In response, Lucy throws something at him. He catches a small ring, which Lucy explains is a gift for him. Remay inspects the ring, thinking it looks like it's made from animal bone. Lucy explains that it's a magical tool for summoning contracted individuals. Remay reflects that magical tools are imbued with powers from extinct species, much like his former teammate Alva's inherited sword. Lucy explains the process. Both parties pour mana into the ring while making a verbal oath to seal the contract. Remay is amazed by the summoning ability, but Lucy warns him that it has a limit of 72 registrants. His job will be to use this ring to summon monsters and drive away adventurers. Lucy points out that this will give him a chance to use his black magic. Remay considers that there are many monster black mages, and this will allow him to expand his tactics. He sees the ring as a potential source of hope for many different species. Lucy specifies that for the time being, his contract targets will be restricted to her subordinates. Remay understands that building rapport is essential for any strategy to work. With a mischievous smile, Lucy announces his first job, to get intimate with everyone. Lucy reassures him that he won't be thrown into war right away. Remay considers how valuable magical tools are in this generation. He believes the only reason for such a precious gift is his connection to her grandfather, the former Demon King. Lucy looks at him earnestly and says, "I'm counting on you, staff officer." Remay clenches his fist, thanking her and promising to treasure the gift. Lucy dismisses the meeting for the day, figuring he must be tired. Remay insists he's not tired at all and thanks her once more. Lucy addresses the room. She announces plans for a welcome party and tasks Agars with the arrangements. Agars eagerly accepts, promising a store with all her favorite sweets and requesting to sit beside her, only to be flatly rejected. Agars lets out a cry of despair as Lucy explains she doesn't trust him. He protests his innocence, wounded by her distrust. He trembles, overcome with emotion at the thought of his ruler's scorn. Agars thanks Lucy profusely for her scorn, to the bewilderment of Remay and Myra. Throughout the entire exchange, Furkaz remains fast asleep. The meeting is finally adjourned. Myra calls out to Remay. She offers to escort him out. They walk together down the ornate corridor. Myra mentions his registration card will come later, and he apologizes. She says it's fine, but admits he saw some embarrassing sides of her. Remay shyly admits he's never been praised so much. Hearing this, Myra says she is truly pleased. Remei adds that her words helped him recall his original dream of becoming a hero, something he'd forgotten. Myra says she's glad to hear it, provided he doesn't find her repulsive. Remei clarifies that while he does think she's a strange person, he doesn't find her repulsive. Myra is touched by his kindness, thinking he's a truly good person. She nervously asks how much he will permit her. Remei, confused, asks what she means. He grows more flustered as she struggles to explain. Myra closes her eyes and asks if she can be his first. Remei is stunned, asking what she means. Myra, flustered, insists it was nothing and apologizes for not being clear. A blushing Myra clarifies she was talking about the ring. Remei learns that the ring also records the order of contracts. She explains that if she were the first, the ring would show her as his first contractee. Remei realizes this would also mean she was his very first monster. Flustered, Myra explains that as his biggest fan, who proposed inviting him to the Demon King's army. And as his temporary assistant, she feels she has a claim to be his first. Remei is left speechless. She stammers, trying to make her case. Remei tells her he understands she's powerful and kind, and that she's had to muster a lot of courage. He recognizes that if Myra hadn't found him, he wouldn't be in the castle at all. He calls out her name, getting her full attention. Remei declares that he hopes for the same. He formally asks if she would be the first monster he makes a contract with. Tears welling in her eyes, Myra asks if he is sure. Remei immediately retracts, apologizing for his forwardness. Myra also apologizes, confessing that she brought up the contract fully prepared for him to reject her. He looks at her, understanding how much this means to her. She trails off, admitting she really wants it. Overcome with emotion, Myra whispers that she wants to suck it out of him. She immediately panics, shouting that it was nothing. As she frantically denies it, Remei wonders if her vampiric impulses are acting up, and she means his blood. Myra recovers, nervously asking if he's ready to form the contract. Remei confirms, but first asks if she is truly sure, adding that he was planning to ask her first anyway. She looks at him, moved. She affirms her decision. Remei recalls Lucy's explanation of how the summoning ring works. He asks Myra to hand over the ring. He gently takes her hand to place the ring on her finger. Myra watches with a serious expression. Remei looks at her with gentle determination. The ring rests on her finger. With their hands joined, Remei recites the vow, promising to accept Myra's request and come to her side whenever she calls. As the contract forms, Myra bows her head. She gently kisses his hand, sealing their pact. Remei is stunned and flustered by her action. He stares in shock as particles of light swirl around them. Myra smiles triumphantly, while Remei reflects that this certainly solidifies her status as his very first contractee. With a pleased blush, Myra savors the moment, thinking to herself that she has successfully claimed Remei's first. Myra playfully tells him she'll go anywhere he desires when summoned, causing Remei to beg her to stop teasing. She questions if his mana would be an issue, but he remains silent. He then claims he was just kidding, unable to hide his blush. Myra apologizes, thinking her advances must seem repulsive. Remei assures her that's not true. She presses him on his hesitation. He jokingly suggests it's too early for a late-night meeting in her room. His teasing catches her completely by surprise. Myra extends her hand, formally asking him to take care of her in all their new roles: castle member, assistant, and contractee. Remei takes her hand, reciprocating the sentiment and hoping for her kindness in return. She gives him permission to call her Myra, but requests he use her dungeon name for work. Remei nervously agrees. She leans in and whispers that she wouldn't mind a late-night summons to his room. Startled, Remei yelps her name. He internally panics, telling himself not to misunderstand and that their contract is just for being comrades. Myra simply repeats, "That's all," with a pleased expression. Remei considers his new job, to get intimate with everyone in the castle and form contracts. He acknowledges the diverse personalities, but resolves to do his best with sincerity. He believes there are people like Myra watching over him, and with that thought, his new life as the staff officer begins. The day after being inaugurated as the staff officer, Remei stands before the entrance to the Demon King's castle. He reflects that this is his first day of work and decides to visit Cashew before heading in. He recalls his first job assignment from the ruler of the demons, to get intimate with everyone. As he walks through the town, he wonders if he can truly get acquainted with them all. Stealing his resolve, Remay reminds himself that he has made his choice. He will become a hero for the monsters. A dream that couldn't be granted in his old party might just be possible in the Demon King's castle. Remay arrives at the market and greets the shopkeeper Blitzan. The man cheerfully welcomes him, calling him a kindred spirit. Remay then turns and wishes a good morning to a flustered Cashew. Blitz thanks Remay for his help the previous day, praising how amazing black mages are. Blitz understands, noting that Remay gave him all the glory before vanishing. He promises to keep it a secret. Remay tries to downplay his role, asking them not to mention it to others. Cashew, embarrassed, insists it was her manager who did everything. Cashew frantically clarifies that Remay had no part in it, earning a chuckle and thanks from him. Blitz insists they should be the ones thanking him, as they sold everything because of his help. As a token of their gratitude, Blitz offers Remay a share of the profits. But Remay immediately refuses to accept it, insisting it's only natural to help. Cashew is stunned by the idea of such natural gratitude. As Blitz insists Remay take the money, Cashew becomes so flustered that she drops the nuts she was holding, scattering them on the ground. Gathering her courage, Cashew offers Remay a shiny red apple. She presents it as her own token of gratitude. Remay thanks her and Cashew beams, saying she's truly happy. He then turns back to Blitz, deciding to buy some fruit to bring to his new workplace. This piques Blitz's curiosity, who asks if he's found a new job. Blitz is thrilled for him and asks which adventuring party he's a part of, offering to add it to his favorites to watch. Remay internally panics, realizing he can't tell him he's changing jobs from adventurer to monster. He vaguely explains that his new group is still temporary. Cashew shyly presents a bag of misshapen fruits, asking if they would be okay. Remay smiles warmly, reassuring her that what's inside is more important than what's on the outside. Seeing her struggling with her bags, he offers to carry them for her, much to her surprise. Suddenly, a figure appears before them. It's Myra, one of the 4 heavenly kings. Remay recognizes her instantly. Myra teases Remay, wondering if he's a kindred spirit like that pervert Argaz. A flustered Remay quickly denies any misunderstanding. With a laugh, she admits she's just kidding and says there's something more important to discuss. Myra turns to Cashew and greets her, calling her the little fruit seller. The young girl is intimidated and can only stammer out a partial greeting in response. Cashew feels small under Myra's gaze, muttering that she'll grow big soon. As Remay tries to figure out what's happening, Myra interrupts him. She turns to Cashew with a gentle smile and asks if she would like to come work with them. Remay is shocked by the offer of a secretary, wondering if it's for him. Myra clarifies she's talking about being Remay's exclusive assistant. Cashew is stunned by the proposed salary, and Blitz exclaims that it's incredible news. Blitz notes that Remay has such a beautiful friend. Myra explains that Remay helped her once, and they've been in a relationship ever since. Remay realizes she must be referring to when he joined the Demon King's army. Blitz, trusting her as Remay's friend, asks if the job is truly safe. Myra assures him it is, but that the decision ultimately rests with Cashew. She suggests Cashew discuss it with her family, offering to explain the details to them personally if they agree. A hesitant Cashew asks why she was chosen. Myra apologizes, admitting that she overheard Cashew and Remay's conversation the day before. Remay recalls the moment. Myra explains to Cashew that if she were to work with them, she could ease the burden on her mother. Most importantly, Myra continues, Remay's new job is intense. It would be wonderful if he had an intimate assistant to support him. Cashew's expression brightens with determination. Blitz chuckles, realizing he doesn't need to worry as long as she's with Remay. Cashew turns to Remay, her eyes full of resolve. She asks if she would be a bother as his assistant. Remay is struck by a wave of pure joy. He exclaims that there's no way she would be a bother, in fact, he'd be happy to be with her. He feels he could definitely do a better job with her help, but he has one reservation. He silently questions if it's truly okay to bring such a young girl to the Demon King's castle. Myra had explained the idea was for her to do clerical work as a secretary, not be dispatched to defend. Still, he looks at Cashew with concern. He gently tells her she doesn't have to force herself. Cashew looks up at him and firmly says no. With newfound confidence, she declares that she will do it. She wants to help and be his secretary. Cashew turns to Blitz, asking if it's okay. He gives her a thumbs up, fully supporting her move from earning pocket change. With that, Myra declares the matter settled. Blitz claps a hand on Reme's shoulder, telling him that Cashew is all his now. To celebrate their new jobs, Blitz gives them a gift of a fruit blitz. Reme thanks him, and Myra arranges to have a subordinate pick up the fruits later. She tells Cashew to give their regards to her mother, and the group sets off. Inside, Cashew runs to her mother, who embraces her warmly. Reme and Myra bow politely as they are introduced. The narration explains that Cashew's mother runs a second-hand clothing store and is a single parent supporting 4 children, making life unimaginably intense. That's why Cashew believed working would ease her mother's burden. Yet, even after hearing the salary, her mother initially refused to let her work at the Demon King's castle. She only relented because Cashew forcefully demanded it, showing just how much she cares for her daughter's safety. Cashew's mother bows, saying her daughter has told her about Reme, her very first customer. Reme realizes Cashew kept his true identity a secret. The mother asks him to take good care of her inexperienced daughter, and Reme promises he will. As they leave, Cashew waves goodbye to her mother. As the 3 walk through a forest path, Reme asks Cashew one more time if she is sure about this. He also asks if she is surprised that he's an employee at the Demon King's castle, instead of an adventurer. Cashew grins, saying she's not surprised at all, and that he's achieved great heights by becoming a staff officer. She happily explores the path, excited to see a butterfly. Seeing Reme's thoughtful expression, Myra asks if he's worried. Reme asks Myra at what point she started listening to his conversation with Cashew the day before. With a sparkling, mischievous look, she replies that she was listening from the very beginning. He then asks if she invited Cashew to the castle just because she is Myra's friend. Myra admits that's one factor, but also that as the staff officer, he needs an assistant. She laments that she can't serve as his helper all the time. Reme still looks worried, murmuring that Cashew is still a child. Suddenly, Myra grabs Reme by the shoulders, startling him. She looks at him intensely and shouts his name. She demands to know what he believes he needs. Before he can answer, she declares that what he needs is a sympathizer. Reme repeats the word, confused. Myra confirms it. She explains that even though he grasps his own true strength, he expects too little from others. Therefore, from now on, she and Cashew will admire him. Reme is taken aback. Myra continues, stating that she and Cashew know full well that his heart and his magic are both extremely powerful. With passion, Myra declares that Reme is amazing. She cannot stand for someone so incredible to hide that or not be appreciated. He is an amazing black mage. Moved by her words, Reme simply thanks her. A blushing Myra promises to do her best. She then explains that while he can form a contract with the ring, monsters are fundamentally under the control of their floor bosses. To gain comrades, he must receive permission from both them and their bosses. Myra encourages him, saying that from now on they will gather comrades who truly understand him, like her and Cashew, and with whom he can build a circle of trust. The word comrades resonates deeply with Reme. He reflects on the idea of comrades who understand him and are willing to fight with him. He remembers his childhood before jobs were established, when he was popular among the other children and had many friends besides Phoenix. But the instant jobs were established, everything changed. His friends mocked him for becoming a black mage when he'd said he would be a hero. They called him uncool, saying he had no future. Everyone left him, claiming there was no benefit to being with a black mage and that he would never become a hero. Everyone except him. Phoenix reached out his hand, promising that together they could become the best, the ultimate heroes. Reme thinks of Phoenix, acknowledging that he has new comrades now. As the staff officer of the Demon King's castle, his path has diverged from that of the adventurers. With his new allies by his side, he will face Phoenix with all his might. He resolves to gather the ultimate comrades who trust one another. As Reme walks through a grand hallway with Myra and Cashew, he learns that to gather comrades, Myra is taking him to one of these facilities, a playing field. She explains that today he will meet a band of werewolves. They plan to start gathering good-natured allies, beginning with the floor boss Marchosias, though Myra warns that he can be a bit overzealous. Reme recalls fighting Marchosias on the 4th floor and worries if the boss would accept a former adventurer like him. He reasons that Myra must have chosen Marchosias because werewolves, who can switch between human and wolf forms, might be more open-minded and offer less resistance to him joining their ranks. Touched by Myra's consideration, Reme resolves to do his best to earn Marchosias' recognition as a comrade. Myra hands him a device similar to a raid logging stone, instructing him to select the second playing field while she goes on ahead. After Myra vanishes in a flash of light, Cashew watches in awe. Remei asks if they should follow and she eagerly agrees. He playfully feigns confusion about their destination, but Cashew promptly reminds him they are headed to the second playing field. They arrive in a vast, open arena, leaving Cashew stunned by its sheer size. Remei is also taken aback as Myra waits for them nearby. Suddenly, a pack of massive werewolves thunders towards them. They tower over Remei, Myra, and Cashew, an intimidating sight. One of the werewolves rallies his brothers, urging them to run like the wind. He boasts that even if hit by dreadful black magic that halves their speed, they'll be fine just by doubling their pace. His charge, however, comes to an abrupt halt. The alpha werewolf steps forward, acknowledging Myra's arrival and stating that it is time. Remei is impressed by the incredible force emanating from the fourth-floor boss, Marchoses. The imposing figure of the alpha werewolf, Marchoses, stands before them. Remei meets his gaze, a bead of sweat on his face. Marchoses addresses him as Black Mage Donor with a low growl. To Remei's surprise, Marchoses is overjoyed, exclaiming how pleased he is that Remei would truly join their army. Remei introduces himself with his new dungeon name, Lemageddon, which Myra explains he will get used to soon enough. Marchoses warmly welcomes him, hoping they get along well. Remei is relieved, realizing he is welcome and that Myra must have expected this outcome. He remarks to Myra that the werewolf seems like a kind-natured fellow, just as Marchoses playfully lifts a delighted Cashew high into the air. Marchoses laments his utter defeat in their last encounter, but Remei counters that Marchoses and his followers were also very strong. The werewolf then praises the incredible power of Remei and the Hero of Flames. Myra agrees, noting how extremely powerful Phoenix is. Marchoses suddenly roars, questioning what they are talking about. Remei is startled and confused by the sudden outburst. Marchoses passionately declares that the only reason the Hero of Flames flourished was because a black mage like Remei was with them, exclaiming that he has never seen such perfected magic before. Marchoses expresses his admiration for Remei, wondering how much training he must have accumulated at his age, and calling both him and Phoenix incredible. Remei realizes the floor boss is carefully analyzing not just Phoenix, but him as well. Marchoses then adds that he has one thing he's curious about. Leaning in, Marchoses asks why Remei released the black magic he had cast on him the instant Phoenix went to fight him one-on-one. Remei begins to explain his reasoning. Remei explains that Phoenix desired a fair one-on-one fight, and he chose to respect that by waiting patiently. He felt it would have been disrespectful to get involved. Marchoses finds this view incredibly honorable, but questions what would have happened if the Hero of Flames had lost. Remei states with conviction that Phoenix would never lose in a duel. He explains the choice wasn't about winning or losing, but whether he would respect Marchoses's will after the one-on-one was accepted. Marchoses stares at Remei for a long moment. A slow smile spreads across his face before he lets out a quiet laugh. Marchoses erupts in laughter, praising Remei's excellent reasoning, impressed that he considered the enemy's dignity. He then explains that while defeated monsters can't appear on other floors, there is a way around it. Remei realizes that it wouldn't be an issue if he were to summon them himself. As he transforms, Marchoses notes that Remei is gathering 72 comrades and offers his candidacy. Remei confirms that his goal is to fend off the Hero of Flames party. Marchoses agrees, adding that more than anything he wishes for a rematch. Now in his human form, Alva is pleased and extends a hand, asking Remei to make a contract with him, the werewolf Marchoses. Remei looks at Alva, ready to accept the offer. He smiles warmly, saying he hopes they can get along well. They shake hands, sealing their new pact. Alva laughs, declaring that this makes them brothers. He thanks Myra for her part in this, and Remei thanks Marchoses in turn. Alva swears to answer Remei's summons and assist him at all times. He adds that his werewolf brothers are also at Remei's disposal, and they eagerly greet their new superiors. Remei beams, thanking them all. He reflects that he'll likely be stationed on the 10th floor. He knows Phoenix will reach him, and until then he will assemble his comrades and prepare. Alva informs Remei that the Hero of Flames will raid the 5th floor the day after tomorrow with a new member, suggesting they observe them carefully. Remei agrees, stating he'll analyze the battle from the control room. As they part ways, Alva cheerfully invites them to visit again. Cashew happily calls out to Marchoses-san, much to Remei's amusement. 2 days later, the raid begins. An eager crowd listens to the broadcast. An announcer declares that Phoenix's party is raiding the 5th floor, wondering what kind of battle they will see. Phoenix's party, including the new blonde-haired member, stands ready. They stride confidently toward the entrance of the 5th floor. As the doors open, they are greeted not by monsters but by a group of maids in a cafe setting, cheerfully welcoming their master back. The adventurers are utterly baffled by the unexpected welcome. Elsewhere in the control room, Reme sits before a complex console, muttering to himself about how difficult it is to operate. Reme recalls that on the same day he met Marchosias, he also made contracts with several other monsters. These included the 1st floor boss, Nabarius, the watchdog of hell, and his subordinate Glacial Abolas, the invisible slaughterer. He also allied with the 2nd floor boss, Chimaris, the great spirit commander, and their aide Lerage, the hunter of dark wounds. He smiles, thinking of them all as his superior and reliable comrades. Watching the monitors, Reme thinks to himself that all the monsters in the castle are powerful. With his new allies ready, he leans forward, eager to see how the new Phoenix party will fight. Alva voices his confusion about their location, which is hesitantly confirmed by Luck. Their leader, Phoenix, senses that something is deeply wrong with the situation. A maid approaches Alva, flirtatiously asking to touch his magical sword. Flustered, Alva agrees, much to Phoenix's shock and dismay. Phoenix quickly realizes the truth. They are surrounded by succubi and their charm magic is already taking effect. Phoenix urgently tries to snap his comrades out of their enchantment. Even Luck seems distracted by the unfolding scene. Lily is visibly flustered by the succubi's charm. Alva has already fallen for one of the succubi's wiles, dropping his sword. Phoenix knows the succubi's drain ability is deadly for anyone but a hero with resistance. He watches as Alva and the others are weakened by the succubi. The party's newest member, Bella, calls out to him. Bella steps forward, confidently asking Phoenix to leave this to her, seeing it as a chance to prove her worth. Phoenix looks on as Bella prepares to act. A chill fills the air as she readies her weapon. With a single powerful strike, Bella unleashes a wave of ice, freezing the entire room in an instant. The succubi are encased in pillars of ice, their charm broken. Bella stands calmly amidst the frozen landscape she created, her power evident to all. Bella explains that she reduced the magical power in her attack, demonstrating incredible control. Phoenix identifies her as Bella, the hero of ice, and asks if his party is all right. Ashamed, Lily apologizes for her weakness, but Bella reassures her that magical affinity was also a factor. As the party recovers, Alva complains of a hangover-like feeling, while Luck laments the unsavory footage. Phoenix reflects on the high potential of the monsters within the Demon King's stronghold. Luck and Lily note that the succubi are a true nuisance and that the party would have been drained without a white mage. Recognizing the increased threat, Phoenix declares that he and Bella will take the lead. Bella agrees to go first, trusting her leader to give instructions. Phoenix gives her his assent. He reflects on her promise, sensing a strong hero quality in her despite her young age. Bella walks ahead, leading the party deeper into the frozen hall. The frozen figures of the maids begin to crack and shatter. Bella notices a door ahead just as the ice gives way. Her expression turns to one of surprise. Suddenly, one of the maids, who has broken free from the ice, grabs Bella's arm. Bella is stunned by the sudden attack. The maid's grip is strong, and her face is twisted into a malicious grin. Bella collapses, her mana drained from the unexpected attack. Phoenix rushes to her side, calling her name as he catches her. The rest of the party watches in alarm. The door Bella spotted is revealed to be a safe room, its crest now visible. Lily identifies the crest, while Luck questions its proximity to the entrance. Alva realizes they've been thrown into a surprise floor boss battle. The floor boss, Citri, mockingly tells them they shouldn't have been so careless. As the remaining maids emerge from the ice, Phoenix warns his party that they are coming. The remaining succubi, led by a furious Citri, charge the heroes. Alva notes that their numbers have been thinned thanks to Bella's ice pillars, giving them a fighting chance. The party engages the remaining succubi. Phoenix steps forward, his gaze fixed. He faces the one responsible, Citri, the floor boss. Phoenix confronts the sudden floor boss battle. Citri taunts him, suggesting he would have tried to defeat her in a single blow. She criticizes his methods, claiming that if Bella hadn't intervened, his flames would have led to everyone's failure. Phoenix retorts that his attack would have reduced her to ashes, prompting her to call him an ugly child. He coolly replies that a hero must be an attractive being. Enraged by his words, Citri glares at him and declares her despise. Phoenix acknowledges her as a superior monster, and as the hero of flames, declares he will defeat her. Citri screams back her identity as the demon of love and reaffirms her absolute hatred for him. A massive explosion of flames engulfs the area. In the aftermath, Phoenix stands victorious. He states with conviction that they do not fail in battle. On a later day, the party gathers at a tavern. Bella shyly raises her glass for a toast. The atmosphere at the table is quiet and subdued. Phoenix gently clinks his mug against Bella's glass. He returns her toast with a simple cheers. The others follow suit, but the mood remains heavy. Everyone at the table takes a drink, the silence speaking volumes. Remé narrates from the control room that after defeating Citri, the party conquered the 5th and 6th floors. The 6th floor was a difficult challenge, teeming with fast-moving aquatic monsters. Lily struggles to get a raid on the swift enemies. Alva curses at the sheer number of enemies. Alva fights recklessly, yelling at the fish-like monsters. Luck struggles to defend against the increasingly powerful attacks. Phoenix watches his team's disjointed efforts with a grim expression. The party battles the swarm of aquatic monsters. A much larger threat emerges from the water. Phoenix notices the danger and shouts for everyone to take cover. A gigantic shark-like monster, Fornius, lunges at Luck. Phoenix cries out his name, but it's too late. Luck resigns himself to his fate, realizing there's no escape. Fornius crashes into the water, devouring Luck. Alva shouts a warning to Lily as a monster appears behind her. Caught off guard, Lily realizes the danger she is in. Remé reflects that although Bella's participation saved them, the 6th floor raid was far from flawless, with Luck being devoured and Lily forced to retreat. Though they defeated the floor boss, it was evident that the other 3 party members were not performing at their best. Alva confronts Phoenix, questioning why their performance hasn't improved despite strengthening the party after Remé quit. Phoenix looks on with weary disappointment as Alva's tirade continues. Alva then turns on Lily for siding with Phoenix. Phoenix calmly points out that Alva owes Remé, yet said nothing before. Lily admits she can't forget what Remé did for her, but she can't lie for him either. Alva ignores her and turns his anger on Luck, accusing him of slacking off. Luck retorts that Alva has been the unstable one, and as they argue, Bella quietly asks them to stop. Alva wildly suggests that Remé cursed them with black magic out of spite. Phoenix's expression darkens at Alva's accusation. Having heard enough, Phoenix lunges across the table and grabs Alva by the collar. Alva is silenced, choking in Phoenix's grasp. Phoenix's rage erupts as he furiously demands to know how many times he has to tell Alva. Lily and Luck look on, stunned by the sudden violence. The outburst shocks Alva into submission. Alva yells that Phoenix must be relieved Remé is gone, so isn't that enough? Phoenix declares that if Remé is no longer their comrade, then he is now his best friend. He furiously asks if Alva thought he would just laugh while his friend was being ridiculed. Alva storms off in anger. Phoenix warns the others that he will no longer forgive them for scorning a comrade. Luck admits that Phoenix is right, but that he also understands Alva's feelings. Luck explains that they like Phoenix and want him to be the best. He continues, saying the party has been stagnating and that Remé clearly lacked ability. He asks Phoenix how they are supposed to accept him, prioritizing his best friend over the party's success. Phoenix listens, admitting to himself that his own attitude was also a problem. He knows he deliberately hid the true extent of Remé's powers, leaving the others unaware of the blessing his presence provided. Phoenix acknowledges that he always believed Remé was necessary. He tells them he doesn't expect their sympathy and suggests they speak of the future. Bella raises her hand to interject. She announces that she has a proposal regarding their future. Bella points out that despite difficult enemies on the 5th and 6th floors, the party's performance was lackluster. She asks why that is. Since she isn't acquainted with Remé, she prefaces that her conclusion is merely speculation. With the entire table listening intently, Bella asks if it's possible that Remé was actually a black mage far more powerful than any of them had thought. Phoenix looks on, a flicker of surprise and understanding in his eyes. Bella's words hit Luck and Alva with the force of a physical blow, leaving them speechless. Bella notes that compared to past videos, both Alva's and Lily's accuracy has been waning, and Lily quietly agrees. She then points out that Luck has been having a harder time defending. Luck begrudgingly admits this is true. Phoenix realizes with a start that Bella has figured out the party's slump is due to the lack of Remé's magic. He marvels at her open-mindedness and analytical skill, which allowed her to reach this conclusion from past footage and a few field experiences. Alva struggles to process the idea of Reme's hidden power. Lily asks if Bella is suggesting they must now act knowing they no longer have the support of a superior black mage. Phoenix confirms their fears, stating that the person they considered incompetent was actually supporting the entire party. The realization begins to dawn on Alva. Alva laments that things only got worse after Reme quit, finally admitting they were being saved by him all along. Phoenix somberly states that Reme is no longer with them. He addresses the group, acknowledging their abilities and declaring that they will formulate a new strategy based on Bella's proposal. Phoenix declares that the 5 of them will raid the Demon King's castle together. He states that they do not fail in battle, and that is because, in the end, the hero always wins. Following her defeat at the hands of the heroes, a distraught Citri apologizes profusely to her leader, Luchan. However, Lucy is not upset, gently consoling Citri by reminding her that she faced a powerful hero and still managed to take one of them down, praising her for doing well. Later, at a dinner table, several demons are gathered. Lucy turns her attention to Reme, noting that his first official battle is the next day, and asking how the ally gathering is going. Reme, his face shadowed, reflects on the assembly and expresses his sincere gratitude for the opportunity. Lucy explains that the gathering is a welcome party for Reme, as many are interested in him. Another demon chimes in, cheekily suggesting that some are probably just there for the free food, which earns a sidelong glance from Reme. Reme takes in the scene. The private banquet is being held at the Demon King Army's favorite restaurant, a grand, multi-leveled establishment. He observes that it is filled with a diverse array of demon species. He feels grateful for the warm welcome, seeing it as a better way for everyone to get to know him than formal greetings. As Lucy suggested, he views this as a prime opportunity to build friendships within the Demon King Army, with Cashew happily by his side. Reme's thoughts drift to his best friend Phoenix, whom he considers strange. Nearby, Lucy describes Phoenix as handsome, tall, and possessing a high-ranked spirit, a powerful human who still respects demons. Citri passionately agrees, declaring that she would believe it if someone claimed he was God's ultimate creation. Hearing his best friend praised, Reme calmly takes a sip from his glass. He reflects that while Phoenix wasn't always the absolute strongest, seeing his current power makes him reconsider that assessment. He recalls how Phoenix ultimately defeated Citri in a single, decisive blow. With that victory, the hero party conquered the 5th floor in no time at all. Reme thinks about how Phoenix is steadily closing in on the 10th floor, where he himself is waiting. His thoughts are interrupted by Cashew's delight as a large meal is served. Just then, Myra approaches Reme, holding out a piece of food for him. With a charming smile, Myra offers to feed Reme, asking him to say, "Ah." Flustered, Reme insists he can eat by himself. Myra's expression shifts to one of feigned disappointment. She suggests it would be a bother for her, and panicked by her reaction, Reme quickly apologizes and agrees to eat it. Myra instantly brightens, pleased with his response. As Reme nervously accepts the food from Myra, he is startled by Cashew, who has been watching them. Taking her cue, Cashew then offers him a piece of food from her own plate. Augars angrily tells Myra to get away from Cashew, calling her a succubus and declaring that the ruler of demons is about to eat. From across the table, Citri yells at Augars to stop being annoying, insisting that she will be the one to feed Lucy. Augars retorts that it's indecent for a subordinate to cling to their superior after failing a job. Citri declares that she is a prime example of such a subordinate. Another demon comments on Augars' harsh words about Citri's relationship with Lucy, but Lucy seems unfazed. Reme observes Citri, thinking that despite her smile, her recent failure must still be weighing on her. Augars continues to insult Myra, but Citri tells him to stop. Myra playfully complains to Lucy that Augars is bullying her. Lucy calmly tells Augars to stop and reminds him to address his comrades by their proper names. Citri agrees emphatically and tells Augars that if he's going to scold her, he should look elsewhere first. She points to Reme, who is being fed by both Myra and Cashew, calling their relationship indecent. Myra coldly tells Citri not to speak to her, as she's having a good moment. Citri complains that Myra is acting differently just for Reme and that she should be kinder to her longtime friend. Myra counters that she is being kind by speaking to Citri at all while Reme is present and declares that she treasures Citri immensely. Taken aback and flustered, Citri asks if she really means it. Myra continues to flatter her, calling her a remarkable child and telling her to stay a good girl, successfully calming her down. Completely won over, Citri joyfully tells Lucy that she is remarkable, which Lucy affirms. Even Argaz concedes, agreeing that Citri is indeed remarkable, leading to a cheer from the appeased demon. Remay observes that the four heavenly kings are friendly with each other in their own way. He notes that Argaz seems to have heard about Cashew. Argaz, flustered, realizes the staff officer is with his companions, but Remay tells him there's no need to hide anything. Argaz explains to Remay that he formed a contract with someone under a misunderstanding, though he did correct them. He adds that he trusts the Demon Lord's judgment in appointing them as one of the four heavenly kings, so he chose to let the matter be. Later, Remay meets the person who wore the Black Knight's armor during the initial meeting. He learns that her dungeon name is Furkaz. As Furkaz eyes his plate, Remay tells her to go ahead. She states the simple condition of their contract: he must provide her with a meal each time she helps him. After the party, Remay is stopped in a hallway by Citri, who has something important to ask him. With a serious expression, Citri asks Remay if he can defeat that boy. Remay immediately understands she is talking about Phoenix. Remay confidently replies that he can. He adds that he will do it with everyone's help. Citri presses him, asking if he's sure. She questions if he's willing to stop his own best friend from achieving first place. Remay states that his friendship with Phoenix is not relevant. He declares with determination that it would be an insult to take it easy on him, and that they will fight with all of their might. Surprised by his resolve, Citri is momentarily speechless. She decides to talk with him another time and turns to leave. As she leaves, she clarifies her intentions. If she is satisfied with his performance, she will form a contract with him. The banquet ends, and Remay tells Cashew it's time to head back. He asks if she had fun, and she happily replies that she got along with many people. Remay internally praises her, thinking she's a promising secretary. On their way out, Remay runs into Lucy. She asks if he managed to speak with everyone. He confirms that he did, thanks to her. She smiles, saying she'll be looking forward to his battle tomorrow. Remay promises to do his best. The party finally disperses under the night sky. Remay gives a tired Cashew a piggyback ride as they depart. The other demons, including Myra and Lucy, wave goodbye. As Remay carries her through the quiet streets, a sleepy Cashew rests on his back. She calls his name and he responds, wondering what she wants. She shyly confesses that in the future, she wants to become a monster. Cashew adds that she made this decision some time ago. Remay simply replies, "Is that so?" He continues walking, carrying her through the night. He thinks about how Cashew is only 8 years old. He reflects on the fact that one's job is determined at age 10, and he feels he can't tell her it's still too early to decide her future. What advice could he, a man who became a black mage but refused to give up on being a hero, possibly give her? He resolves to support her dream but still has reservations. Cashew then says she has a wish for him. He encourages her to share it. She asks that until she becomes an adult and has the ability to help him. She wants him to stop forming contracts with his ring after 71 people. Remay realizes this is the opposite of Myra's desire to be his very first contract. Cashew asks if her request is all right, and Remay smiles, telling her it's a wonderful wish. Remay tells her that he now has one more thing to look forward to in life. When she hesitantly asks if he's sure, he confirms without a doubt. Touched, Cashew quietly promises to do her best. With newfound determination, Cashew vows that she will one day form a contract with him, and he agrees. She snuggles contentedly against his back, falling asleep. Under the light of the full moon, Remay looks up at the sky, his expression resolute as he thinks to himself, tomorrow is his first battle. A console beeps, initiating a transfer. A figure materializes onto a rocky landscape. He utters his new name, Lemageton. A young horned girl stands in a corridor, asking if he is sure about this, having done as he requested. Rem, cloaked and horned, confirms his decision. He reflects that this is the best path now that he has decided to become a monster. He takes a mask from her, thanking her for making it perfectly. The girl calls him a strange person, noting that he is aware of the significance of a demon having only one horn. Rem confirms that he is aware. She wonders if her grandfather told him, but Rem reveals that her grandfather also requested that he be given a dungeon name. Rem chuckles, acknowledging that a dungeon name is usually chosen by the ruler of demons. The girl says she doesn't mind, as her grandfather is also a ruler in his own right. She advises him not to give out his real name, instructing him to act as a mysterious robed man for now. He vanishes in a flash of light. The girl wishes him well, saying she looks forward to his first defensive battle. Rem promises to get results for hiring him. With a final word, he vows he will be back. Rem appears on the first floor of the Demon King's castle, a barren, rocky wasteland. A large, clawed paw steps onto the dusty ground nearby. He greets his partner for this mission, the winged wolf Glacial Abolas. Rem expresses his hope that they will get along, and the great beast agrees, stating they will do their best defending. Rem announces that the hero party will arrive soon, and they will proceed as arranged. Their mission will utilize Glasan's ability to turn targets invisible. The approaching party, ranked 249th, believes they can simply copy the strategy of Phoenix's party. But Rem is here this time. They cannot afford to underestimate the impregnable Demon King castle. A party of heroes arrives, consisting of a hero, 2 warriors, a holy knight, and a hunter. The Roaring Thunder hero unleashes lightning magic, having made a contract with the Spirit of Wind. The hero, Alva, scoffs at how easy the dungeon is. His companions chat idly. One warrior, relieved the monsters looked ferocious, while the hunter dryly points out that it's only the first floor. One of the warriors notes that since Phoenix's party has already cleared this floor, they need to find a way to surpass them. The Holy Knight suggests they could focus on speed, or stylishly defeating strays for their recording. Alva simply calls them fools. Alva arrogantly states that as long as they don't have a trash-can black mage, they'll be attractive. Rem finds the crude remark about black mages mean, and notes the hero's speech reminds him of Alva. He tells his companion it's time to go. Rem explains that their invisibility will be cancelled once they get close to their target. Furthermore, while the spell makes them unseen, any magic they cast would still be visible. This is precisely why black magic is perfect for this situation, as it's invisible to begin with. Everything has gone according to plan. He sacrificed some phantom dogs to give the enemy a false sense of security. Now it's time to act. Suddenly, Rem appears from thin air, surrounded by a dark aura. The hero party is caught completely by surprise, their members staring in shock and confusion. The hunter calls out as the humanoid monster, leading a pack of phantom dogs, appears behind them. Alva questions the demon's presence on a floor supposedly belonging to watchdogs. Alva notes that this is a monster Phoenix's party never encountered, and the female warrior reasons that the rank 4 party would have surely broadcasted it. More phantom dogs appear, their forms flickering into existence. The Holy Knight correctly identifies the situation as a trap. Rem observes him with a shadowed expression. The party is already aware that simply copying Phoenix isn't enough, which plays right into Rem's hands. Rem considers the obvious factor, a hero's pride. It would be problematic for him to simply turn invisible and run. Seeing his opponent stand his ground, Alva grits his teeth and declares, "Let's do it," much to his companion's surprise. Alva yells for his party to hurry and attack before the demon disappears. Heroes are chosen beings with superhuman powers, and Alva couldn't imagine falling behind a monster. Rem knew that this hero couldn't be satisfied staying at rank 249. Driven by his pride, Alva leads the charge. His entire party rushes forward to attack the lone demon. Rem makes his move, casting a spell with a flick of his wrist. A dark power envelops him, ready to be unleashed. The Holy Knight is suddenly frozen in place. He cries out that his body isn't budging as his party moves on. He looks on in shock and confusion. The Holy Knight cries out in alarm as phantom dogs close in on him. One of the warriors looks back, asking if they should help him. Alva angrily shouts to leave him, callously stating that a Holy Knight should be able to handle a few dogs. The others reluctantly agree and hurry to keep up with their leader. The Holy Knight is left to fend for himself. The Holy Knight struggles, wondering why it's so hard to move. Rem watches, determined not to allow his identity as Lemegeton to be exposed. He doesn't want to reveal that a powerful black mage is present. The knight, sweating, realizes the difficulty in moving must be a spell. He wonders if there's a phantom dog that can use black magic, or if the robed demon's dogs are special. He realizes his stats are declining rapidly from multiple sources. Panicked, he tries to prioritize the caster, but he can't tell which dog it is. Rem muses that the knight has fallen for his plan. With many invisible dogs now using black magic, the knight is forced to focus on these unseen enemies first. As a dog lunges, the Holy Knight screams a warning to his party that it's a trap, something that never happened in the Rank 4's video. He cries that tons of the dogs can use black magic and are trying to split them apart. Overwhelmed, he finally succumbs. Alva shouts in frustration that their night is gone, while the female warrior points out they've fallen for the trap he warned them about. Alva clicks his tongue in annoyance. Rem watches, confirming his suspicion. The hero won't help his comrades. Phoenix's party used a team strategy, but this time, Rem has successfully split them apart. Now alone, Alva stands in the empty clearing, demanding the stinking demon come out and face him. Rem appears before the hero. A phantom dog leaps at Alva, who easily swats it away. Enraged at being messed with by puppies, Alva vows to kill them all together. Alva unleashes a massive burst of lightning, shouting, "Eat this." The powerful attack vaporizes the phantom dogs surrounding him. The last of the phantom dogs disperse. Just as he catches his breath, Alva looks up to see glacial abolas descending upon him. Rem had analyzed their raid and knew Alva would abandon his comrades to cast massive spells at an invisible enemy. Since spells use mana from the body, he wouldn't be able to fire another spell of that caliber consecutively. As a bonus, Rem cast his own spells. Alva cries out in shock. His vision is suddenly plunged into darkness as Rem wonders what he thinks of a black mage's magic now. Glacial abolas roars, its maw wide open. With the hero blinded, the beast lunges forward for the final attack. The great beast slams into Alva, its bite connecting with his neck. The hero is thrown into the air, defeated, as Glacial abolas lets out a triumphant howl. As the defeated hero vanishes from the floor, Rem and his demonic allies survey their victory. Elsewhere, the remaining members of the hero party are exhausted and at their limit, unable to believe what happened. The rest of the hero party is swiftly defeated. With the battle won, Rem smiles, declaring that should do it. He turns to his allies and thanks them sincerely, saying he couldn't have done it without them. He muses on how incredible invisibility magic is. The phantom dogs, no longer hostile, eagerly approach Rem. He tells the affectionate creatures to calm down, making a mental note to thank the sacrificed dogs later. He promises to pet them all until they are satisfied. Rem's first job was a success. He admires a new suit, thinking it isn't bad. His life as a staff officer of the Demon King's army has gone smoothly, and he's glad Cashu's mother helped him pick out the suit. Ever since that first battle, he has been sent to repel the numerous parties that show up daily. In his free time, he adjusts the 10th floor to accommodate its boss, Lemegeton. He and Cashew work together to improve the coordination of personnel from every floor. Phoenix's raid party is still in progress, having already surpassed the 8th floor. Rem knows a fight with them will happen soon. However, just for today, he must not think of work. Today is a day off, and he has promised to meet a woman who has been constantly helping him out lately. He heads to the park for their mating. Arriving 30 minutes early, Rem thinks he's still ahead of schedule. But to his surprise, he spots her. Myra is already here, waiting on a bench. A man approaches Myra on a park bench, noting she has been waiting all morning and asking if she is waiting for someone. Myra says she is fine, but the man persists, offering to get her a drink. She apologizes and asks to be left alone, but he presses on, saying it's his treat. Furious at the rejection, the man kicks the bench and yells at Myra. He grabs her, telling her to get up and stop acting conceited. Suddenly, a hand intercepts his, stopping him before he can strike her. Rem calmly holds the man's arm, his expression firm. He applies pressure, twisting the man's arm and forcing him to his knees with a cry of pain. The man cries out in pain, calling Rem a bastard. He quickly surrenders, telling Rem it was his bad. As Rem holds the man, Myra watches, thinking to herself that this is happening once again. The man runs away, muttering curses. Rem looks on, pondering Myra's words and wondering what she meant. Rem kneels to pick up the pieces of the broken bottle, asking Myra if she's all right. Myra thanks him, explaining it was just a drunk man. Both Rem and Myra silently recall a past encounter, realizing their paths have crossed before. Myra suggests they get going, and Rem readily agrees. Smiling, Myra says that meeting Rem on a day off feels like a dream. Rem concurs, adding that he wants to thank her for many things, to which she replies that he'll have to spoil her. The two share a meal, smiling and enjoying their time together. They walk through a town street, surrounded by other people. Rem looks around, a thoughtful expression on his face as he recognizes the road. Myra leans close to a flustered Rem, saying she is tired and asking if they can rest somewhere. Rem considers her request for a rest. He nervously asks if she means she wants to suck his blood. Blushing, Myra insists she is not some shameful, thirsty vampire. Rem quickly reassures her that he never thought of her that way. Myra leans in close to Rem, satisfied with his response. Looking up at a hotel, Myra tells Rem to decide what they should do and what he would like to do with her. A folded paper slips from Myra's clothing and falls to the ground. Rem picks up the paper, noticing Myra dropped it, and reads the title, A Seduction Guide from Citri-chan. Myra becomes extremely flustered, denying she uses the guide and claiming the girl put it in her clothes. Rem watches her panic, wondering why she is trying so hard to please him, and reassures her that it is all right. A wave of realization hits Rem. He turns to a surprised Myra and tells her he would like her to suck his blood. They get a room, sitting awkwardly on opposite sides of the bed. Rem calls out to a startled Myra. He looks at her seriously and asks if they have met before. Myra asks hopefully if he recalls their meeting, but Rem apologizes, saying he has forgotten. Myra smiles gently, saying it's wonderful that helping people is so natural to him that he cannot remember every person. Rem corrects her, stating that he does remember the incident with the drunk men and a beautiful vampire from 2 years ago. With a gentle smile, Myra confirms that he is right. She begins her story, explaining that it was 2 years ago when she first met Rem. At the time, she was working as a vampire in a dungeon in another town. She explains her job was blood controller, giving her power over blood. Despite feeling she had become a monster, she had resolved to prove her worth in the occupation she had chosen. She had been optimistic, believing she could rise through the ranks to become a dungeon master. But her hopes were quickly dashed by a harsh reality. She was repeatedly passed over for promotions, being told it was because adventurers didn't like hurting women. She recalls her frustration and disappointment. One day, after refusing an unwanted advance from a superior, she found her post changed. She was reassigned to a dead-end corridor that no one ever visited. It was in this state of despair that she first laid eyes on Phoenix's party. In the flashback, Rem is seen celebrating with his party. Myra recalls seeing Rem and knowing his story. She knew his position was due to his connection with the Hero of Flames. Myra confronts Rem, sneering that a black mage only needs a hero friend to reach rank 13. She turns to leave, but Rem calls out to her. Myra is surprised he is not angry, as he approaches her with concern, asking if she is all right. Just then, another man calls out to her. A man from the bar approaches, feigning concern and suggesting she take a rest. As Rem looks on, Myra tries to insist she is all right. Suddenly, a hand clamps over her mouth, silencing her. She collapses in an alley, weak and unable to stand. Her attackers gloat, confirming their plan worked. The leader reveals a vial, explaining that they drugged her and she can't move. Her clothes are ripped as the men assault her. Overwhelmed by despair, Myra wonders why the world is like this. She feels that all her efforts have been for nothing and that people only see her for her feminine features. One of the assailants tells her to stop struggling and calls for his friend to help. A bottle shatters on the ground nearby. The men are suddenly blinded and cry out in confusion, wondering what happened. The lookout panics, sensing that something is terribly wrong. Rem appears in the alley, his dark form a stark contrast to the light as he confronts one of the men. Rem unleashes a devastating kick, striking the man square in the face. The man is thrown back, hitting the ground hard. The remaining attacker looks on in horror, demanding to know who Rem is. Rem follows up with a powerful punch, his expression cold and determined. The second man is knocked unconscious as Myra watches from the ground. The final assailant is sent flying by Rem's attack. The leader of the thugs lies unconscious and beaten on the alley floor. Rem stands between the defeated men and a vulnerable Myra. Myra looks up at him, speechless and overwhelmed. Rem kneels, apologizing for his late arrival and covering her with his cloak. Myra breaks down, crying and asking why he would help her after she was so cruel to him. Rem explains that he saw her being followed and suspected trouble, but Myra dismisses this as not being a real reason. Myra insists a normal person would have ignored her, but Rem says he couldn't. Rem explains that while he accepts that some people will dislike him, he sensed she was different. Myra tells him she knows the difference between true hatred and simple irritation. He explains that people usually vent to those close to them, but some independent types refuse to show weakness. Rem continues, saying that bottling up pain is poisonous, and because they can't vent to loved ones, they lash out at strangers. Wrapped in his cloak, Myra apologizes. She cries, repeating her apology for saying something awful, even though he had done nothing wrong. Rem simply tells her that it is fine and that he forgives her. Rem asks why she endures being unrecognized for ridiculous reasons like her job, gender, or age, despite her power. Myra looks up at him, her frustration boiling over as she asks if it is not all wrong. He agrees, but she seems unable to finish her thought. Rem observes that she has suffered because she refused to give up on a broken system. Myra looks at him and asks why he hasn't given up. Rem says it's because he has a dream, which makes Myra realize she can persevere for her own goal. Rem tells her he admires her refusal to give up, but suggests that if she's at her limit, retreating is a valid option. He expresses confidence that she will find the right place for herself next, though he apologizes for not knowing where that might be. Tears streaming down her face, Myra thanks him profusely. Myra asks if she became his fan just because he helped her that one time, worrying it sounds repulsive. Rem firmly tells her there is no such thing, and that he feels blessed by her admiration. Myra is surprised by his earnest response. Rem admits he once felt his dream of being a hero was futile because he was a black mage. But now he believes there is hope. He explains that their encounters, where he helped her and now she has saved him, have shown him that proper conduct can be rewarded in unexpected ways. He explains that thanks to her, he can now work at the Demon King's castle and pursue his dream of being a hero for demons. He looks at her gratefully, calling her his benefactor. Myra looks back at him, her heart full. Myra embraces a surprised Rem, asking why he is so kind. Her feelings overwhelm her as she pushes him down onto the bed. Myra leans over Rem, asking if she can bite him. Rem calmly consents. She prepares to bite his neck, her fangs extended. As morning light streams in, Rem observes that they have been talking all night. Lying together, Myra tells Rem about the concept of a sleepover friend. She then asks him to decide the nature of their relationship going forward. Surprised, Myra asks if she is to decide, and Rem confirms it. She questions his decision, reminding him of his views on sexism. Rem admits he does, but tells her she is his one special exception and asks if she is against it. They gaze at each other, a deep understanding passing between them. With a peaceful smile, Rem closes his eyes, thinking to himself that he is not against it. A bald man named Blitz raises his mug, proposing a toast to Rem's re-employment. Rem and Myra return the toast, both smiling. Their mugs clink together, sealing the celebratory moment. Blitz expresses his surprise at the place Rem found his new job. Rem replies that he's doing better than expected, but Myra interjects, calling him their savior and hero. Blitz mentions he witnessed the raid by the Roaring Thunder hero, which Rem confirms was his first defensive campaign. Blitz is amazed that Rem's magic works on heroes just as effectively as it did on common criminals. Myra enthusiastically agrees that it's seriously amazing. Rem seems a bit embarrassed by the praise, which Myra notices and teases him for laughing. He quickly apologizes, and she forgives him with a smile as Blitz watches them fondly. Blitz observes that the two of them seem to be on very good terms. Myra confirms his keen observation, stating that they are indeed close. Blitz then chides Rem for keeping his distance from people, pointing out that Rem still refers to him formally. A chagrined Rem can only apologize. Blitz clarifies he isn't scolding him, just encouraging him to open up more. Their conversation is suddenly cut short as a tall figure approaches their table, asking for a moment of their time. The newcomer smirks, confirming he's found the person he was looking for. He stands over the table and addresses Rem directly by name. Rem stares in disbelief, wondering why Ariel-san is here. He recognizes the man as the famed Tempest hero, Ariel-san. Rem knows that Ariel, along with Phoenix, is one of only 2 current contractees of the 4 great spirits. Meanwhile, Ariel greets him casually. Rem internally confirms that Ariel is the leader of the world, rank 1 party. Ariel smiles, telling Rem that he's been looking for him, and it has been rather difficult. Stunned, Rem asks if Ariel was truly looking for him. A nearby waitress recognizes the famous hero, her surprise evident. Rem's expression darkens as he realizes the situation is not good. Reacting instantly, Rem casts confusion magic and the waitress's look of recognition fades. Her expression shifts from starstruck surprise back to normal. Rem breathes an internal sigh of relief, thinking it was a close call. He reflects on his ability to cast black magic, almost reflexively on anyone in his field of vision. He used a powerful confusion spell to mask his existence from the swarms of reporters after his withdrawal. Thanks to that magic, not a single one of them could see him. He knows, however, that someone as powerful as Ariel would be able to resist it. Rem realizes Ariel must have been constantly using magic to find him, countering his own confusion spell. Ariel then turns to Blitz and Myra, introducing himself and stating he's working as an adventurer for now. Blitz, completely starstruck, asks if Ariel is Rem's friend and timidly requests an autograph. Ariel agrees, telling Blitz he's glad that he and Rem are friends. He remarks to Rem that he has a pleasant friend and has been blessed with great encounters since coming to town. His gaze then shifts to Myra, and he correctly deduces that she is a vampire, to which she quietly affirms. Ariel observes that Myra is a magnificent woman, hiding her true nature to be with Rem. Based on their interactions, he presumes they are in a romantic relationship. Myra proudly declares their bond is far greater than that of friends or lovers, causing Rem to blush. Ariel laughs, saying he was worried, but is glad to see Rem happy with wonderful friends. He then asks to have a private moment with Rem. Myra and Blitz look on, their expressions serious. Ariel mentions the rumors that Rem was looking for a new party and extends an invitation to join his. The offer leaves Myra and Blitz completely stunned. Ariel asks about Rem's current job. Rem evasively replies that he is not an adventurer. Ariel then asks who withdrew from his party. Rem hesitantly reveals it was Panacea. Ariel explains that Panacea, a white mage, has proven her strength in the world rank 1 party. He continues that she recently had her 3rd child and decided it was time to settle down. Rem realizes they are looking for substitutes. Ariel clarifies that he is offering Rem a permanent position, not a temporary one. The thought of officially being part of the world rank 1 party shocks Rem to his core. Rem can't help but ask, but why me? Ariel explains he was impressed by Rem's spectacular black magic, which he sensed upon entering. Ariel adds that he finds Rem's power to be unfathomable. He asks if Rem knows of the ruler of the demons, Lucifer. Rem internally panics, as Lucifer is his master, a secret he cannot reveal. Ariel continues, recalling his early days participating in dungeon raids. Ariel describes Lucifer as a being like no other, one who sent a chill down his spine. He then reveals that when he first saw Rem, he felt that very same chill. Rem is amazed by Ariel's sharpness. He realizes that Ariel somehow sensed his master-student relationship with Lucifer. For Ariel to perceive that despite his concealment truly proves he is world rank 1. Ariel welcomes him to the party and gives him 1 week to think about the offer. Blitz is ecstatic, exclaiming how incredible it is that Rem could become rank 1. Myra congratulates him, noting that other adventurers clearly know of his magnificence. Myra looks downcast, saying that although their time together was short, it was dreamlike and she will never forget him. Rem turns to her and asks if she thinks he will accept the offer, catching her by surprise. Myra reminds him that his original goal was to become a rank 1 adventurer, not the monster Lemegeton. Rem looks at her, stating that the dream she told him about is not his second choice. He takes her hand, excuses them from Blitz and walks away. Rem and Myra hurry after Ariel, calling for him to wait. Ariel turns, asking if he has decided already, to which Rem confirms. Rem states that he is honored by the invitation, however. With a steady gaze, Rem politely declines Ariel's offer. Ariel's calm expression falters slightly. He asks Rem for his reason, with Myra standing by his side. Rem explains that while he wanted to become rank 1, that does not mean he wanted to be given the position. Ariel's eyes widen in understanding. Ariel muses on Rem's words, acknowledging him as a real man. He admits his proposal was unreasonable, as the peak is reached, not given. Rem affirms that he is not at all disappointed, but is pleased to be recognized. Ariel smiles, realizing Rem has already found a place where he belongs. With a confident smile, Rem confirms that he has. Myra looks on, touched by his conviction. Ariel says he'll look forward to seeing Rem become the best, adding that to do so, he'll need to surpass them. Rem vows that when the time comes, he will win. As Ariel walks away, he calls the exchange wonderful, musing that it seems he can't retire just yet. Rem watches him go, a determined look on his face. A few days after Ariel's visit, Rem takes a walk with Cashew. He has many things to ponder for the upcoming battle, but knows a change of pace is necessary. Cashew excitedly points out a shop she wants to visit. Rem agrees to go in with her. They enter the Scylla design office, which designs the monster avatars for the castle. Cashew eagerly says she wants to request an avatar design. A woman inside recognizes Cashew as the rumored young secretary. The designer Scylla gets excitedly close to Cashew, saying she knows what she wants and they should think of an outfit. Rem and Cashew look on, a bit nervous. Scylla assures them there's no need to be on guard. She's been thinking about what would suit Cashew for a while. Scylla proudly declares herself a genius designer. She reveals that Myra informed her, and she has already made an outfit for Cashew to try. Rem turns to Cashew to ask what she thinks. Cashew gives a quiet nod of approval. With that decided, Scylla excitedly leads her to the dressing room. While waiting, Rem browses the clothes, noting their exquisite designs. A sudden cry from the dressing room startles him. He asks if she is all right, and she replies that she's fine, just shocked at how utterly adorable she is. She sounds confused, as she had wanted to become a strong-looking monster. Rem tells her she looks strong, but adds that behavior is just as important as the outfit. Inside, Scylla gives Cashew an idea, and the little girl seems to understand. The curtain is suddenly pulled aside. Rem is startled by the sudden reveal. Cashew emerges in an adorable monster onesie, lets out a tiny roar, and declares she's going to tear him to pieces. The display is so cute that Scylla collapses, while Rem can only mutter how cute it is. Afterwards, Rem asks Cashew if she had fun and offers to get sweets, to which she happily agrees. Thanks to Cashew, he managed to pass the day happily, without any worry. A few days later, Phoenix's party is set to advance to the 10th floor of the Demon King's castle. That night, Rem lies awake in his bed. He looks at his phone, thinking about how tomorrow is the day of the decisive battle. A sudden knock on his door interrupts his thoughts. He opens the door and lets out a groan of annoyance at the sight of the visitor. It's Phoenix, who pulls back his hood with a cheerful smile, teasing Rem for his mean reaction to the visit. Rem retorts, asking Phoenix to imagine how it feels to have his secret lodging discovered by someone he wasn't expecting. Phoenix concedes the point, admitting it must have been scary, but insists that Rem is still his friend after all. He explains that he heard about Rem's new job from Ariel-san. Before Phoenix can continue, Rem interrupts, demanding to know how he was found. Phoenix explains that starting from the bar where Rem met Ariel, he searched every nearby inn and used mana detection to pinpoint his signature. Rem processes this information, wryly asking if Phoenix is a stalker. With a serious expression, Phoenix says he had something important to discuss and that Rem would be just as worried if their positions were reversed. Rem apologizes, admitting he found it difficult to face Phoenix for some reason. Phoenix starts to say he should be the one apologizing, but Rem seems surprised by the sentiment. Deciding to put it aside for now, Rem suggests they go for a drink and talk things over properly. Phoenix seems surprised by the offer. Rem has second thoughts, pointing out that Phoenix has a raid tomorrow and should probably avoid alcohol. Phoenix brushes off the concern with a confident smile, declaring that a hero doesn't succumb to alcohol. Seeing his friend's abnormal confidence, Rem sighs to himself and suggests they just grab a meal instead. The two find a quiet bar to talk. Phoenix asks if Rem managed to avoid the reporters, but Rem quickly turns the question back to his friend, asking if he's okay. Phoenix notes that Rem has been acting strange for a while and wants to know what's wrong. Phoenix confesses he thought Rem would be angry with him. Rem assumes he means the stalking and dismisses it as creepy but not a big deal. However, Phoenix clarifies that his concern is not about that, but about Rem leaving the party. Rem realizes that Phoenix has been genuinely troubled by his departure, even though Phoenix himself tried to stop him from leaving. He calls Phoenix a fool, reassuring him that if he were to get angry over something like that, he would have been angry the moment Phoenix became a hero in the first place. Relieved, Phoenix smiles, acknowledging that's the kind of person Rem has always been, and apologizes for ever doubting him. Rem accepts, then playfully tells Phoenix that since he hasn't been paid yet, the meal is on him. Phoenix readily agrees with a smile. Changing the subject, Phoenix teases Rem, asking about the new lover Ariel mentioned. Phoenix encourages him to introduce her sometime, while Rem internally curses Ariel for spreading unnecessary rumors. Rem clarifies they are just friends for now, and steers the conversation back to the real issue, asking Phoenix what he wanted to talk about. Phoenix's expression turns serious again. He takes a sip of his drink, and finally asks the question that's been weighing on him: why did Rem choose to quit the party on his own? He adds that their comrades, Alva, Luck, Lily, and even the new member Bella, are important to him. Phoenix passionately reminds Rem that they started the party because of a promise they made as children. Rem quietly confirms this. He recalls how their life as adventurers began with a shared dream. As best friends, Phoenix wanted them to become World Rank 1, and Rem accepted. Rem knows that quitting without a word was a betrayal, but he still feels he had no other choice. He insists it was impossible for him to stay. He explains that from the public's perspective, he was just a deadweight black mage, and revealing his true powers to someone like Alva would have been disastrous. Phoenix argues that they still managed to reach World Rank 4 together, and were so close to progressing further. Rem counters that this was the very problem. It was precisely because they got stuck at Rank 4 that Alva's dissatisfaction with Rem's perceived weakness boiled over. Rem explains that something was holding Phoenix back from reaching Rank 3, and that something was Rem's own existence. Phoenix protests that it was not just his help, but Rem's presence that allowed them to climb so fast. Rem points to their incredibly talented new recruit, Bella, as an example of the strength the party now possesses without him. When Phoenix asks if Rem is watching their raids, Rem confirms he's been glued to the screen. Rem states that Phoenix must understand, then, that Bella's recruitment has improved their appeal. Phoenix clenches his fist, still feeling conflicted. He admits that he still feels it's his fault. Rem explains that while Alva and the others are top-class adventurers, they aren't growing at the dramatic rate he is, having been trained by the Demon King. As part of the same young generation, their potential is high, but their inexperience limits them, as shown in a flashback. Driven by his desire to reach World Rank 1 with Phoenix, Rem cast his magic in a way that made his comrades appear stronger while hiding his own true power. In essence, his support magic held them back from improving on their own, making them exhibit power greater than what they actually possessed. Phoenix admits his own guilt in the matter. He notes that Rem's actions seem to change after the 7th floor, which Rem confirms was because of Bella. Phoenix wonders if Rem's black magic had something to do with it, and Rem questions if Alva recognized it, though he doubts it. Phoenix reveals that Luck and Lily have changed their perception of Rem, and even Alva seems aware of something. Rem agrees that the real concern is Bella, who is very perceptive. Phoenix has managed to deceive her for now, but it's a constant worry. Rem listens intently, understanding the precarious situation. Overly powerful black magic gives the impression of dark magic, a dangerous and feared power that once brought great suffering to mankind. If he were even suspected of being a dark mage, the kingdom would investigate, rumors would spread, and it would ultimately destroy the party. That is why he had to keep it hidden. As Phoenix begins to speak, Rem looks at him with a pained expression. He tells Phoenix not to say any more, stating that he knows exactly why he never talked to him about it. He didn't want to have this conversation and allow Phoenix to say what he was about to. Rem explains that even if Phoenix had defended him, no one would support a hero who expels comrades in favor of a childhood friend. Phoenix lowers his head, knowing Rem is right. He still reaches for his friend, unable to accept the situation. Phoenix asks if this means their shared dream was impossible from the start. Rem thinks for a moment, realizing he now has an answer to that question. He tells a surprised Phoenix that regardless of the past, he still intends on becoming a hero. Phoenix brings up Ariel's invitation, but Rem states that the World Rank 1 position isn't something to be granted. When Phoenix asks if he's found a new party, Rem says not quite. Phoenix asks for a clear answer he can understand. Rem declares that he will become a hero on his own, having found new comrades. Phoenix looks down, processing Rem's declaration. Rem declares that from this day forward, it will be a competition between him and Phoenix. He reminds Phoenix that he said the same thing when they first became comrades. In a flashback, a young Rem explains that the hero always wins, and a young Phoenix realizes this means the winner becomes the hero. With a grin, young Rem warns his friend that if he isn't careful, he might just surpass him. Rem looks at Phoenix, waiting for his response to the memory. Back in the present, Phoenix smiles, saying he remembers. Phoenix wishes for the better hero to win, and Rem vows that even as friends, he won't hold back. Phoenix declares that he'll be waiting for Rem on the World Rank 1 throne. He then playfully complains about how cruel it was for Rem to quit and sever all contact. Rem smirks, retorting that it sounds like Phoenix has just been whining. Phoenix apologizes for sulking, admitting it was also because Rem was making new friends and seemingly finding a lover. Seeing his friend's mood, Rem suggests they finally have that drink. Surprised, Phoenix asks what's the matter. Rem just says he feels like it. The bartender approaches with their drinks. He sets down 2 large mugs of ale. Rem proposes a toast to their rivalry. Phoenix raises his mug in return, adding a toast to the 2 heroes sitting there, and they clink their mugs together. After leaving the bar, they walk away into the night. Phoenix reminds Rem that his party will be raiding the 10th floor tomorrow, and Rem acknowledges it. Phoenix hesitates for a moment before continuing. Phoenix confidently tells Rem to watch because they are going to win. Rem replies that he will definitely watch. Phoenix declares that he will be 1 step ahead in reaching World Rank 1, but Rem adds a cryptic, "Well, I wonder about that." Phoenix questions if Rem is implying he'll lose. Rem simply tells him, "You'll see tomorrow." Pulling up his hood, Phoenix reaffirms his conviction, stating that he will definitely win, because that's what being a hero means. Rem can only offer a knowing smile. As they part ways, Rem mentions he'll be moving soon and asks Phoenix not to look for him this time. Phoenix agrees, on the condition that Rem doesn't sever all contact again. Rem promises to tell him about his new job and show his face then. Phoenix can't resist one last tease, insisting on an introduction to Rem's beautiful lover, to which Rem sighs that he's being persistent. Phoenix lets out a laugh. Rem smiles back. Phoenix says that on the following day, they will meet face to face again. Rem agrees, acknowledging their new roles, one as an adventurer and the other as a monster. The stage is set. It will be a battle between best friends, the hero of the humans and the hero of the monsters. As Phoenix's party stands before the dungeon entrance, they are surrounded by a throng of reporters. A reporter steps forward, asking Phoenix for his impressions on the raid now that they are about to challenge the 10th floor. Phoenix quietly reflects that almost every late-starting adventurer has been crushed, confirming the castle's reputation as an extremely difficult dungeon. Phoenix acknowledges the reporter's point about the 5th floor's difficulty. His thoughts are interrupted as the reporter brings up his former comrade, Reme. The reporter presses further, asking if the departure of his childhood friend has had any effect on the party. Phoenix silently stews, thinking he had agreed to leave Reme alone, yet the topic persists. Phoenix internally notes that he has never publicly shared his opinion on Reme leaving. He clenches his fist, knowing he deliberately kept quiet on the matter. He realizes the crowd wants to hear that cutting Reme was the right choice, not that he was a vital part of the team. After a moment of hesitation, Phoenix's expression hardens. He confidently declares to the press that he believes Reme was an incredibly superior black mage. Bella steps forward as Phoenix calls her name. The reporter, flustered, can only stammer in response to Phoenix's statement. He quickly points out that Bella was substituted for Reme in the hopes of strengthening their forces, which has seemingly worked. Bella calmly tells the reporter that he lacks a discerning eye, if that's what he truly believes. The reporters are shocked by her blunt retort. She continues that her presence only improved their appeal on screen, while Phoenix chimes in that their balance as a party was better with Reme. The reporter challenges Phoenix, citing rumors that Reme was considered deadweight. Bella coolly questions the reporter's journalistic integrity. Luck supports her, revealing that the Tempest hero, Ariel-san, also praised Reme's abilities. The reporter is stunned to learn that the rank 1 hero had such a high opinion of Reme. Undeterred, the reporter confronts Alva, reminding him that he once claimed Reme's withdrawal was the right decision. Alva, annoyed, dismisses it as an old interview from before their current raid. He furiously demands to know how long they plan on talking about someone behind their back and tells them to get back to work. The party stands together, leaving the reporter sweating under their collective gaze. Phoenix takes control of the situation, politely asking if they can move on to another question regarding their future battles. The press corps is silenced by the party's unified front. As Phoenix turns his back on them, the reporter speaks up. He nervously asks what Phoenix is doing. He tries to explain that his questions were not of his own accord, but Phoenix bluntly retorts that he doesn't care. Phoenix's expression darkens as he issues a threat, telling the reporter to watch his back. The reporter stumbles backward in terror, letting out a cry of fear. Bella diffuses the situation, stating that her leader's feelings are clear and asking them not to escalate things. Phoenix defends his actions as a warning, not a threat, but Bella wisely reminds him that presentation matters. Watching her, Phoenix thinks to himself that she seems to have settled into the party nicely, and he is glad to be her leader. Bella playfully teases Phoenix, asking if he's over Reme now. He tells her not to make fun of him. The party discusses their situation, with Alva claiming he's just concerned. Bella lets out a small laugh. Lily notes that they've been pushing Bella hard, while Luck expresses their determination to press forward despite the difficulty. Bella cheers, full of confidence in their party's strength. Luck and Lily share in her resolve. Alva adds his own passionate vow, promising not to fail again. Seeing his party's morale restored, Phoenix smirks and gives the order to begin the raid. The towering spires of the Demon King's castle loom against the sky. Inside, a long, pillared hall leads to the 10th floor's throne room. A lone, cloaked figure sits on a throne at the end of the vast chamber. It is Reme, his expression stern as he assumes his role as floor boss. Carmilla informs her leader that Phoenix's party is about to attack. She asks if he recognizes the intruders, and a minion confirms they are the ones who have been defeating them. Reme steels himself, knowing he must maintain a solemn attitude befitting his station. One of his monstrous subordinates wonders aloud if their defeated comrades were simply weak. Reme denies this, then questions his minions, asking why they continue to stand there after seeing their allies fall. Carmilla reminds them of the hero's power, stating that their defeat is almost certain. Reme challenges them, asking if they intend to simply be defeated again. In response, a powerful minion slams its foot down and shouts in defiance. The alpha werewolf Marchosias rallies the troops, proclaiming their desire for victory alongside their leader. The three-headed Nabarius agrees, promising to rip their foes' windpipes out. Glacialabola's howls echoing the sentiment. The Great Spirit Commander, Kimaris, expresses his confidence that with the staff officer's help, he can capture another hero. The hunter, Lerage, sets her sights on the elf in Phoenix's party, vowing revenge. The imposing Knight of Severing, Furkas, and the alluring vampire queen, Carmilla, await the battle. Pleased with their response, Reme praises his minions. He declares that as long as their fighting spirit remains, they can never truly be defeated. Reme announces a change in strategy. From this day forward, they are on the offensive. His one command is simple: obey him and seize victory. His army responds with a thunderous roar of agreement. The werewolves lead the chant, pledging their allegiance and roaring for victory. Reme gives a slight, confident smile. He floats down from his high perch. He lands before Carmilla, ready to issue his final orders. Carmilla formally kneels, swearing their obedience and guaranteeing victory for their leader, Lemegeton. Reme, his identity concealed behind a mask, issues the command for them to take their positions. A brilliant light erupts from a magic circle on the floor. Phoenix and his party appear, their expressions grim and determined. They stand ready, facing the throne at the far end of the hall. The masked Lemegeton watches them arrive. From his throne, he greets the adventurers. He welcomes them to the 10th floor, internally noting the voice changer that hides his identity. He knows this setup is the same as the 5th floor, meaning the battle begins immediately. He lays out the battlefield, an extremely long hallway with 2 doors. The first is the entrance through which the adventurers have just arrived. The second is the exit, which he and his forces are tasked to defend. He reflects that he could use his usual tactics, but for this occasion he will try something new. Driven by his desire and his responsibility to his new comrades, he resolves to defeat Phoenix's party directly, fighting alongside his army. Lemegeton formally introduces himself as the staff officer of the Demon King's army. Phoenix issues his own challenge, identifying himself as the hero of flames who will defeat him on his path to the Demon King. Lemegeton dismisses the hero's declaration. He vows that they will all be annihilated right here. A blast of force erupts from him, striking the unprepared adventurers. Luck and Lily are shocked by the sudden, immense power. The entire party braces themselves, reeling from the initial assault. A smirk appears on Phoenix's face. He throws his head back and begins to laugh wildly. Lemegeton begins to laugh as well, a chilling sound that matches Phoenix's. The bizarre chorus of laughter fills the throne room. Alva, Luck, and Lily stare in bewilderment, completely confused by their leader's behavior. Phoenix finally stops laughing, a look of realization on his face as he says, "I see." His hand tightens around the hilt of his sword. His expression becomes deadly serious. He announces that they must go all out from the start, as any hesitation will put them at a disadvantage. Lemegeton thinks to himself that Phoenix has finally figured it out. He addresses his old friend and rival, ready to take up his challenge. As Phoenix's party stands ready, Alva mutters that the 4 heavenly kings have appeared, while Luck worries that facing several of them at once will be a problem. From his throne, Lemegeton considers his options. For one time only, he can deploy the 4 heavenly kings to any floor he wishes, even ones they are not in charge of. Lemegeton muses that while powerful monsters are usually restricted to their own floors, he has used a loophole to gather his commanders here. The exception is when they are summoned by another, a power he now wields. Lemegeton knows he must maintain the facade of an ordinary raid, as the party is unaware of his ring's true power. Lily identifies the Black Knight Furkers as a major obstacle, admitting her arrows cannot pierce his armor. Bella suggests that for a quick battle, they should target the floor boss directly. A dejected Luck offers to be left behind if he is a burden. Bella sharply refutes this idea, recalling that the Roaring Thunder Heroes party was wiped out attempting a similar strategy. She theorizes that they are facing numerous hidden black mages, as the damage seems too great for one person to inflict. The heroes and demons stand off across the vast hall. Alva complains that this cautious approach is depressing and won't make for good viewing. Bella calmly replies that strategy depends on the enemy's composition, a fact she's sure Alva already knows. Lemegeton observes that while Bella acknowledges his skill, she has not yet discovered his true identity. Phoenix tells Bella that Remay had the virtue of not rambling on so much. The Black Knight Furkers steps forward, sarcastically complimenting Phoenix's patience. The challenge is met as Furkers slams his weapon down, shattering the floor with immense force. Furkers lunges at the party, his massive weapon swinging in a deadly arc, forcing the adventurers to brace for impact. Phoenix draws his sword, preparing to meet the charge. He intercepts the blow, his blade clashing against the knight's heavy weapon. Phoenix leaps back, narrowly dodging another powerful swing from Furkers. The knight's weapon glows with a dark energy, ready for the next exchange. The two warriors face each other across the hall, the air crackling with tension. Phoenix's eyes are locked on his imposing foe, sizing up the challenge before him. Phoenix dashes forward, his sword ablur as he deflects a rapid thrust from Furkers' polearm. The knight presses his attack, unleashing a flurry of strikes that force Phoenix on the defensive. Using the polearm's shaft as a springboard, Phoenix launches himself into the air. He twists his body, bringing his sword down in a powerful overhead slash. Furkers is taken by surprise, barely managing to raise his weapon to block the descending blade. Sparks fly as steel meets steel, Phoenix putting all his weight into the strike to shatter the knight's defense. The impact sends a shockwave through Furkers' armor, forcing him back a step. Smoke rises from the point of contact, the sheer force of the blow evident. Phoenix remarks on the impressive durability of Furkers' armor. The Dragonoot minions charge forward to support their commander. Lily cries out in concern for her leader. Phoenix declares his intrusion, determined to break through the enemy line. He successfully creates an opening, pushing past the minions and leaving them in disarray. The Dragonoots are knocked back by the force of Phoenix's charge. Bella suggests to Lily that they should attack the belligerent Dragonoots while they haven't closed the gap. Lily agrees, readying her bow to fire a volley of arrows. Suddenly, Carmilla steps forward with menacing grace. With a cruel smile, she addresses the foolish adventurers who dared challenge Lemegeton. She vows to punish them with blood for their insolence. Luck remarks on the vampire's overwhelming sadistic aura and intense black magic. Unfazed, Alva steps forward, confidently declaring that he'll finish her off in seconds. Alva walks past his comrades to confront Carmilla alone. Meanwhile, the duel between Phoenix and Furkers rages on in the background. Alva roars that no matter how his own abilities are debuffed, his weapon is immune. He charges, believing that since black magic cannot be cast on weapons, he holds the advantage. Alva unleashes a powerful swing with his magical trident, which glows with energy. Carmilla watches the attack approach, a flicker of surprise in her expression. Lemegeton knows that while black magic cannot be cast on inanimate objects, magical swords are different, as they are guided by their users' thoughts. Lemegeton reflects on their long history as comrades, stating that he knows exactly who Alva is. Alva charges forward, screaming for Carmilla to die, oblivious to the trap being sprung. Suddenly, Alva's magical sword stops dead in midair, caught by Lemegeton's gloved hand. Alva and Luck can only stare in disbelief. Lily and Bella are equally stunned by the impossible feat. Lemegeton calmly inspects the weapon, remarking that it's a nice sword. Alva wonders if he should just let go of his weapon. He curses as he struggles against an unseen force. With dawning horror, he realizes he is being pulled in by his own weapon. Lemegeton explains that the magical sword's attack and return path are predetermined. He knew it was set to pierce his head and then return to its owner. He then poses the question, what happens if someone intercepts the sword before it returns? The answer is that the wielder is dragged along with it. Alva screams in frustration, unable to break free from his own weapon's pull. Luck cries out Alva's name in alarm. Alva is helplessly dragged across the floor towards his enemies. Lemmigeton casually hands the captured trident to Carmilla. With the weapon now in her possession, she effortlessly kicks the approaching Alva, sending him flying. Carmilla easily wields Alva's weapon, preparing to strike. Alva looks on, stunned and defenseless. He stumbles to the ground, completely disarmed and at her mercy. The kick sends Alva tumbling helplessly through the air. He crashes hard onto the stone floor, groaning in pain. Carmilla smiles cruelly, promising him a slow, torment-filled death. Alva can only lie on the ground, cursing his tormentor. An exasperated Luck prepares to intervene. Alva shouts for his comrades to stay away, declaring that any attempt to help is futile. Lemmigeton observes that Alva has accepted his role as a sacrificial pawn. Lemmigeton muses that Alva, knowing he has fallen, is correctly choosing not to ask his comrades for help. Carmilla taunts the defeated Alva, mocking his lost pride and asking why he isn't crying to his friends for help. Alva struggles to his feet, yelling that for a foe like her, his legs are all he needs. Carmilla confidently declares that she will not lose and will claim victory now. As bats swarm around him, Alva calls her a bloody monster and tells her to stop acting like a hero. Lemmigeton calmly orders Carmilla not to end him just yet. She obediently agrees to her master's command. He reflects that as long as Alva's avatar remains deployed, anyone can make use of his magical tool. Lemmigeton recalls how Alva has boasted about his weapon for years, making him intimately familiar with its function, which he now exploits. Lily realizes with horror that Lemmigeton is planning to use Alva's own magical sword against them. Alva can only curse, understanding the dire situation. Alva charges Carmilla but is easily knocked back. Carmilla tells him to burn the image of his allies into his memory, as he is about to lose horrendously to Lemmigeton's magic. Alva snarls, telling her not to screw with him. From his throne at the far end of the hall, Lemmigeton prepares his attack. He raises the captured weapon and utters a single command, activate magical sword. The trident leaps from Lemmigeton's hand, glowing with immense power. It hurtles down the hall, aimed not at the demons, but at the hero party. Alva cries out in horror as his own sword flies past him, aimed at his friends. His face contorts with pure rage as he screams at the bastard who has so utterly